All right. Good afternoon. We're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to try to call the meeting to order. I will throw this thing. No, I'm just kidding. All right. We're going to call the regular meeting of the City Commission for Tuesday, March 8th to come to order. Please silence your cell phones if you would. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Mayor Owen.
Here.
Vice Mayor McGurk.
Here.
Commissioner Hartman.
Here.
Commissioner Colodi.
Here.
Commissioner McGurk.
That's you.
Here. I thought you said Vice Mayor McGurk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think you did call his name first.
Did I?
Yes.
Did
I'm
you?
sorry.
Commissioner Sacks.
I give you, do I get 2 votes?
Commissioner Sacks.
You're also.
Thank you.
For the record, we're all here. However that all went down, everyone's here. Okay, we're going to begin, as always, with an invocation led by Laura Berg, if you would care to join in standing for that. And then after that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance here.
And with your permission, I'd first like to thank all the laughter and joy that's been going on in the waiting room for an exciting night. I think it's something we all need, so blessings on all of you who are joining us and your families. We'll keep you in our prayers for sure. Yeah. Let's pray. O Holy One, infinite in wisdom, power, and love, thank you for the gift of this day, this special day, for the blessings and opportunities we've been given to be a blessing to others. We're grateful for your guidance, your wisdom, and support as we continue the task of making important decisions that impact our residents and visitors to our community. Bless our leaders that they may use their best skills, resources, and judgment regarding matters placed before them tonight. Direct and protect all who serve our community faithfully, day and night, to protect, honor, and nurture our well-being, and again, bless their families. May we all, as leaders and citizens of New Smyrna Beach, choose to engage in healthy discussions tonight, to respect our differences, to validate the worth of every life represented here, and to strive for unity throughout our community. We pray for the people of Ukraine, for the people of Russia, for all those suffering and afraid, that your spirit of compassion and healing may be felt in tangible ways. We pray for world leaders, for compassion, strength, and wisdom to guide their choices. We pray for the world that in this moment of crisis, we may reach out in solidarity to our brothers and sisters, using our individual gifts and graces to be the light and hope that will make for peace. May we walk in the way of perfect love so that peace and justice become a reality for the people of Ukraine and Russia and for all the world. In all the holy names of God we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Khaled, any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mayor. I just want to point out on item 8A, as far as the exhibits, the one in the agenda, it was kind of, it doesn't match what's in the report. I have sent to the commission the correction on the exhibits to match what's in the report. So I just want to make sure that's noted. Thank you.
Okay. If anyone from the public would like a copy of anything on that, you can talk to Khaled, he can email it to you. All right, we have a proclamation. Thank you. Valerie and Janice, if you're here and will join me, way back in the back. Hello, come on up. All right, this is to proclaim March as American Red Cross Month. This is whereas in times of crisis, people in the city of New Smyrna Beach, Florida come together to care for one another. This humanitarian spirit is part of the foundation of our community and is exemplified by the American Red Cross volunteers and donors. In 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross, and we're going to take a year-by-year summary all the way. No, I'm just kidding. Turning her steadfast dedication for helping others into a bold mission for preventing and alleviating people's suffering. Today, more than 140 years later, we honor the kindness and generosity of those volunteers here in the city of New Smyrna Beach who continue to carry out her life-saving legacy. They join the millions of people across the U.S. who volunteer, give blood, donate financially, or learn vital life-preserving skills through the Red Cross. Whereas the city of New Smyrna Beach, the contributions of local Red Cross volunteers give hope to the most vulnerable in their darkest hours, whether it's providing emergency shelter, food and comfort for families devastated by local disasters like fires or hurricanes, donating essential blood for accident and burn victims, heart surgery and organ transplant patients, and those receiving treatments for leukemia, cancer, or sickle cell disease, supporting service members and veterans along with their families and caregivers through the unique challenges of military life, helping to save the lives of others with first aid, CPR, and other skills, or delivering international humanitarian aid. And that's a lot that I just covered, and certainly the Red Cross does a lot in our community. And dealing with natural disasters on a fairly routine basis, we certainly feel it here very, very personally. So we dedicate this month of March to all those who continue to advance the noble legacy of the American Red Cross founder Clara Barton, who lived by her words, "You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it." We ask others to join in this commitment to give back in our community, and thereby we proclaim March 2022 as American Red Cross Month in the city of New Smyrna Beach, and urge all citizens of the city to reach out and support its humanitarian mission. And I know one way, I see the buses all over, the big red buses, right? That's you all. Please tell me it's you all. No, that's not. Sorry.
That's correct.
That's also a good cause.
That is One Blood. and
That
we
is One
partner
Blood.
with
Okay, you partner with One Blood. All right.
But we do blood elsewhere.
They give blood elsewhere. All right, so that's one way you can give back. Do you want to share some other ways now that I've put my foot firmly in my mouth? Would you like to share some other ways that folks can help support the mission of the American Red Cross?
Want me to take your foot out of
Yeah,
your
right. Please, thank you.
That's good. That's good. There are many ways to help your community. We ask that, especially this month, take the time to volunteer, if not with the American Red Cross, with another organization. There's so many good organizations out there to help our communities. If you don't have time to volunteer, because many people do not, then dig deep in your pockets and donate. Again, if not to the American Red Cross, to another worthy organization. If you don't have time to volunteer or donate financially, then just spread the word. Spread the word. Social media is very powerful. Just follow us and click and share. This is just a time, this started back from President Franklin D. Roosevelt over 80 years ago, proclaimed March as Red Cross Month. Every single president, every year since then, has done the same. So we're very happy and honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, we'll grab some pictures real quick for our social media. All right, Sean, I think you have some things to cover now. I'll turn it over to Fire Chief Sean.
Very good, thank you. Well, good afternoon or good evening. As soon as we're done here, we're going to actually reach the minimum capacity again. Right now, the fire marshal is shaking in his boots because we have too many people in here. So this evening, we come to you with an opportunity I get pretty rarely, but it's a great time to welcome new members into the New Smyrna Beach Fire Department family. This is big for us because not only are we inviting or welcoming these 5 new individuals in, we're inviting their parents or their spouses in with us. These firefighters are going to work 365 days a year. They're going to work Christmases, Thanksgivings, miss all the soccer games, and miss all those things that go along with that. So not only is it a sacrifice for them as an individual employee, it's a sacrifice for their family as well. So anytime we have new members like this, it's not just to recognize them, it's to recognize the family that comes along with them. So I'm going to bring up Cameron Coakley, I'm going to bring up Nick Diorio, I'm going to bring up Todd Ulrich, Christian Huddleston, and Elijah Urbick. And then I'm also going to bring up that one of their family members is actually going to put their badge on their shirt. For Elijah, his wife Rosie is here. For Christian, his dad Michael's here. For Cameron, his mom Jolene is here. For Nick, his dad Sal is here. And for Todd, his mom Lori is here. So if they want to come on up, because this is when when they get the opportunity to kind of invest with us and pin the badge on their shirt for the first time, recognize that these guys are going to be ours for the next 25 years, every third day, and that means that we're taken away from them in some fashion. So if you want to go ahead and get your badges out, you got them, everybody got them? And go ahead and stick them on there as gingerly as you feel fit. Ouch. Yeah, and they'll get the 5 up there too. We've never done this synchronized before. And there's always one that had to be Cameron. So, all right, well, thank you all very much for that. What we're going to do now is we're going to bring up the commission to go ahead and invite these guys in as well because, again, they wouldn't be here without the 5 electeds who allowed them to come to work. So come on up, gentlemen. And
Center you all up. There you go. Good. I mean, that's gotta get here. Bill, play us out.
Yeah, so we're going to have multiple rows here.
we don't travel lightly. Again, thank you all for your time. Thank you, gentlemen and families.
Commission, just hang up. Jacob, Mike, just say that.
All right. I got one more thing on the agenda. And this is a special thing for us because on September 8th of last year, of 2021, exactly 6 months ago tonight, we had a firefighter injured on the job. And, Jeremy McElfresh had a very unfortunate accident, suffered a traumatic head injury on the job. He's been recovering. He's been going through all that process over the last 6 months. At times, we actually thought he may not survive the injury. But he's awake. He's talking to us right now. Has some limited mobility, so always recovering, always going forward with that. Through all of this, obviously the family suffers. The family realizes that there's financial burden. And one of our community partners stepped up with our local labor union and said, I have an opportunity, or I have the ability to help the family out. And so Matt from Los Lagoon, and he's here, Matt, the entire Los Lagoon family opened up their restaurant to us for a fundraiser. It happened on October 2nd. That event went from the morning until late in the afternoon at least, and raised $27,000 for the McElfresh family. So that was a huge one-day event. Really helped the family in immense ways. Beyond that, there's websites out there that are still supporting them to this day. Cubby Strong, if anyone wants to look at it, check out the story, understand what happened, and maybe if possible, help the family out a little bit financially. But we want to bring Matt up and the whole Los Lagoon family up, recognize them. Because none of this would have been possible had they not given us the venue, the fries, the burgers, everything that we needed to make that happen, and we really do appreciate it. Community partners are huge for us, and this is just a great example of what that partnership can do in the community. Bubba Jones, our labor president, is going to bring up a little award for you gentlemen. So, in case of emergency.
So anyway, just to add a little something to this, not only has he done this fundraiser, he's been very generous to us on a daily basis. I can call Matt up anytime, and if we ever want anything, he's there to help us. So it goes beyond just that fundraiser. So he's been really good to our union and the fire department. I appreciate that.
All right. Chief Coffin, if you'll just pull those doors shut back there for me. Get those doors. All right. I could have sworn I've seen a big red American Red Cross thing on the side of those buses. Yes.
I'll give you some shade. I thought it was too.
I guess I should have been more prepared in that moment, but I could have. Y'all forgive me. Embarrass the city. All right. Next item up is public participation. This is your chance to address the commission on anything on your mind or on the agenda tonight. Remember, anything that's under second reading and public hearing, so those will be anything in item 8, second reading and public hearing, you have a chance, there's just one item, you'll have a chance to address that item at that time. For anything else, this is likely your only chance to address the commission. We reserve the right to call up individual folks maybe for a particular item, but this may be your one chance to address the commission for anything else outside of that. So this is your chance to speak. You have 3 minutes. You'll just come to the podium. Kylie, can you fix that mic? I just bent it down on the podium there, right here. So you'll come to the podium, give your name and address for the city clerk for the record, if you would. And with that, just come right ahead. First come, first serve. Got one gentleman coming here in front of you, and then we'll go to. I think he walked up first, and we'll come to you next. No, that's all right. He didn't see you coming behind you there.
My bad. Sorry.
Go ahead. You're good,
I'll
bro.
be quick.
Yeah, you're good.
And Terrence Jackson, 319 Sheldon Street. I sent each of you an email about a entrepreneur program. I don't know if anybody got a chance to look at it, but I think it's something that would be interesting for the city of New Smyrna Beach to take on because New Smyrna is growing. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen 44 lately. But the program is an entrepreneur program, and who they train is people like chambers of commerce, city leaders, different entrepreneurs. It's based out of North Carolina, and her name is Crystal Morphis, and she's willing to do a virtual presentation. I got her information if anybody would like to look into it, but I just thought it was a good idea for New Smyrna Beach, being that it's a growing city. I just thought that would be a good thing. All right, that was it.
Thank you. I don't remember seeing the email,
Yeah.
so,
I sent it today. I might have sent it to the wrong one.
okay,
Today?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't.
yeah. All right, I'll catch you. If you're still at the end, I'll catch you. If not, I think I know how to find you. All right, yes, sir, come ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Steve Wood. I live at 17 Cunningham Drive in New Smyrna Beach in the Inlet Shores subdivision. I have a few of the other residents with us here tonight who wanted to come along as well. The reason that we're here is we want to seek some additional help from the commission with the flight school activity, Epic Aviation in general. Several months ago, probably a year ago, I thought the best way to handle this is to make the simple route and go directly to Epic and talk to them one-on-one. I did that. I talked to their general manager. I talked to their flight school director. And then I went over and had a meeting with them and the airport manager. And it seemed like that, it was a simple thing that we were trying to accomplish. We've asked them to fly around us and not over us. That continues to happen. We've been working on this for over a year. Everybody's been real cordial, and it's not been anything that, I felt very confident that we had made ground and we were going to make some progress there. But the noise abatement procedures that were set forth several years ago are not being followed. The very first one on the list is avoid flying over residential areas when possible. Unless there was some emergency or some other flight traffic in the area, I could understand that they had to come across us. But when you look at the other, I'm not going to name all the procedures, but another one that's big to us as a community is no repetitive flight training on Sundays and national holidays. Every Sunday, every national holiday, we've had flyovers, had traffic. It may not be quite as hard as what it is during the week, but it's repetitive. When you have an airplane coming off the runway every 60 to 80 seconds, that's repetitive to me. And that happens on Sundays as well. So what I'd like to propose is I'd love to be able to meet one-on-one with the commissioners, if at all possible. I've got some maps here that are of interest, and I don't know if you want to look at those tonight, but when you look at the aerial map of the airport in relation to Inlet Shores, we do not in any way, shape, or form collide. There's runway 1129, clearly, if they took a descent off that runway, went out long, gained their altitude before they made a turn, they'd never come close to us. Runway 7225, same thing. They would not encroach on us. Am I over?
Yeah, if you can just wrap it up quickly. You're speaking for a couple other folks. I'll give you another few seconds here.
Again, what I wanted to try to point out is that with a lot of attempts already, we just don't seem to be making progress, and I need y'all's help to interject and do whatever we can to quiet the skies down around our neighborhood. They can go around us, they don't have to go over us. Just that simple. It's an easy fix.
All right,
Thank you.
I'm happy to meet with you.
How do I get in touch with you folks?
She'll take care of it. She's got business cards and.
Okay.
Yep.
Kelly?
If you contact me,
Contact Kelly? Okay, thank you very
She'll
much.
set it up,
I
yeah.
appreciate it.
All right, others. Yes, Donna, come ahead. I see Pam coming after that.
Donna Atherin, 684 Corbin Park Road, New Smyrna Beach. I come actually to commend this commission and for bringing us back in for the Turnbull Creek Preservation Board. I also need to commend Khalib because he has done outstanding to help gather information for us in a short period of time. We asked for some more information about the drainage plan. We asked for areas of what we can do as a committee to help buy up more lands. And because you've had so many changes with employees here in the city for these departments, he's been above and beyond the call of duty to be able to take it up. So I commend him for his help. I also want to offer our committee, myself and our committee members, to try and lighten the load on the city staff. And we will be happy to look into possible avenues and ways where we can collect up funds or find available grants to help with cleaning up the Turnbull Creek and making it functional for our drainage system. Kyle has been working on the drainage plan for our area in Corbin Park Road, and we sincerely feel that that creek is a huge part of that drainage plan. To have it cleared out and to find groups to work it and to clean it out, I think our committee is willing to do that, to do some of the legwork. So Kelly knows how to find each one of us as committee members, both me and Chip. Chip has already done a lot of, Weston has done a lot of legwork to find grants. He knows of them. I've done some legwork to find what Turnbull preservation, the creek preservation under the National Historic Land Preservation will offer. And this guy right here is top shelf. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Pam Eisen. I live at 624 North Riverside Drive. And when I decided to come tonight, I did not know that you were going to have all those young firefighters and that presentation. I'm a little emotional, I'll tell you. I need fair warning next time, Kelly. We are very fortunate to have citizens in New Smyrna Beach that are eager and willing to serve on our advisory boards and task force. Having citizens involved in these type of activities is so important for the well-being of our city. Over the years, the city has put together multiple advisory committees, and some of those advisory committees are required by regulation and by law. Others are nice-to-haves, and these committees typically have a specified purpose and an objective. Over time, some of these committees have lost that focus, and current objectives have not been established. Interest has waned, and we have not been using city staff to the best of their ability or the best of their time. I am serving on one of these committees currently, and because of that, I have been motivated to get with some other folks that have a similar interest to work on a reboot for these advisory committees. The benefits of a reboot are multi-purpose. We could identify committees that will be relevant to current and future needs. We can define some very specific objectives. We can standardize committee appointments. We can create recruiting and vetting protocols and put those in place. We can establish a formalized onboarding process for these committees, which would include training such as training on the Sunshine Law. And, of course, we will revise our forms and documents. Based on my individual meetings with all of you yesterday and the great encouragement that you gave me, I am requesting that the proposal I sent to each of you and to Kelly be added to an agenda in the future for review and hopefully implementation. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Kyle, help us remember to come back to that request in Mayor and Commission comments. I guess we'll speak to that. The request to have something on the agenda, we'll talk about that. Buddy, come on out.
Hello, my name is Buddy Davenport, 106 Grandview Drive, New Smyrna Beach. First of all, I'd like to start out I'm here as a citizen, but also as the chairman of the New Smyrna Beach Utilities Commission, sharing with you from my heart what a great meeting, joint meeting we had. Utilities Commission and the City Commission accomplished a lot. What happened last weekend, I was working on my boat and I got in the water in Intercoastal. And we'd talked about one of our important tasks that we're trying to achieve in New Smyrna is get the septic tanks on sewer. And I was amazed when I got in the water, working on my boat, just put my head underwater and came back up. I thought I was in a septic system. I could not believe what my face and the smell I was. It was pitiful. I hope you can count on me and our team over there that you've appointed us to work on it. We know that's very important. But I would hope we would look and put that up as high as we can on the radar in this community to get those in Silver Sands, those homes specifically I'm referring to. That's a goal I have as this commission, to help those people fund to get off septic and get on sewer. It's beyond my comprehension how we ran the sewer pipe straight down A1A all the way to Bethune Beach and past those couple of hundred homes. I don't know how many, 300-ish, but they would be great in our community. Maybe we can help them out. Colin, I've talked to you before about this. We can help them out by the fire, police, lower their taxes. Let's work on this if we could jointly. I'm in, we're in. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate it. I noticed the agenda tonight. Our agenda is about 400 or 500 pages. When I saw 1,500 pages, I'm like, when do y'all start reading this stuff? Anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
The day it comes out is the answer.
Last Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
Last Wednesday.
Yeah, last Wednesday night, as soon as they publish it. Any others for public participation? Yes, sir. Joe, come on out. Hey, I just checked, buddy. I didn't get that email. I forgot his name.
Jerry.
Jared. I didn't get that email, so make sure you got our email addresses. Got it? I didn't see it, so. All right, Joe, come on up.
Yeah, Joe Dluback, 3587 Casalta Circle. Just wanted to give you, commissioners and mayor, an update on the activity at the Venetian Bay Homeowners Coalition. We are focusing on several issues within the community. We're working those. We have been working with city staff to resolve some of those, and we expect any of the residuals to be able to come before you mid-April when Commissioner Colodi returns from his trip on the 17th. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Any others for public participation? All right. Seeing none, we will close public participation. Next item up is the consent agenda. There are 12 items. Does anyone wish to pull any item? We're going to come down the line. If you want to pull anything, if you just have a quick comment, clarification, you can, of course, just say that right away. If you want to pull it for a separate vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Colodi, we'll begin with you.
I would like to pull 6C, comment on 6D.
Okay.
Comment, I'll do my comment.
Go ahead, yeah.
It has to do with the police department getting a marine vessel, which I do support, but I think we should work through to get that boat, instead of on a trailer, on the water, so more ready access to it. And coupled with that, the fire department currently has a boat that's in the marina. It would be nice to rent the marina out, and we could prepare a custom docking space for that boat also. My comments. Some of these items I have marked were addressed during the CRA.
Okay.
The one item that I do want pulled is 6C.
6C, all right, I've got 6C to be pulled. Commissioner Sachs, anything to pull or any comment?
I have a comment on 6C and 6D also.
So 6C is pulled. You can go ahead and make your comment on 6D.
6D, let's see. So I looked over the specs on that vessel. I'm just wondering, I'm hoping it's either military or police grade. It is an awful expensive item. I do know we need a sort of go-fast boat. My question is it a rigid inflatable, or is it just a fiberglass boat? Chief, you might know. Sorry to drag you up here, but
Question was it a rigid inflatable or fiberglass?
It's both. It has a rigid hull inflatable side, and then it has a fiberglass bottom. We looked at this boat specifically for those attributes, so that when we come up next to other vessels, that we won't be scraping them and end up costing the city money, and also to get us in a little bit more shallow water.
very good. Does it have a jack plate to get the engine up higher, or?
Yes, it does have a jack
It does
plate.
also, okay. And all the ancillary radars and other equipment you will need.
Yes, sir.
Will it tow?
It will tow small vessels. We'll have the ability to rig up a bridle in the back and tow small vessels that may break down in the river. We could take them to a marina or into the city marina.
Tremendous asset, expensive, but I'll go for it.
Yes,
Thanks.
sir.
All right, and 6C was pulled, so you can make those
Yes.
comments when I come back to it.
Okay.
Commissioner, or Vice Mayor McGurk.
Already pulled, thank you.
Chief, just a comment on 6D. You can stay. Don't wait till you get the boat to get rid of those derelict vessels out there, please.
That's why it's not towing.
All right. And gentlemen, I'm going to pull E and F, not for anything major. I'll explain it when we get to them, but I'm going to pull E and F. So with that, do I have a motion to approve items 6A through L, excluding C, E, and F?
So moved.
Second.
I'll take the second from Commissioner Sacks, I heard, because you're closer.
Either way, that's
Yes,
fine.
Kelly, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Several, I think, wanted to pull C, but I heard it first from Commissioner Colodi. We'll start with him.
This has to do with an application for a fine grant for improvements at what we call the AOB site, due to lack of a better name for it. There is a safety issue out there in that the finger piers and the dockings in general are a safety hazard. When you have low tide, I've seen people in small boats lifting their children up and putting them on these finger piers. And it was a design that worked at the time, but it's time to improve it and make things a little bit better out there. What I would like to see, though, is the grant request increased to cover 2 further areas. One will be shoreline enhancement. Even though we call it the AOB site, what it really is the remains of when we had a sewer plant out there. And the shoreline, basically, for a lot of it, consists of concrete rubble. Not good for the environment, not good for a park-like setting. I would like this item pulled, or additional funds be put into it. This has to be submitted by March 28th. We have one more meeting coming. I've spoke with the city manager, who says that if the rest of the commission agrees, that perhaps the grant could be modified somewhat to be more inclusive in improvements to the park and improvements to the waterway itself. Those are my comments.
You said 2 areas. I only wrote down shoreline enhancement. Did I miss one?
Yes, and so did I. I have it on here somewhere. It's adding additional finger piers over what's there right now. Right now, there's 3 on one side, on the west side, and none on the east side. There's dockage, but it needs to be enhanced and made better.
Okay.
So for that reason, as well as the shoreline enhancement, which should also significantly improve our chance of getting a grant, because it's an additional facet on the project.
Okay. Commissioner Sacks, I think you also wanted to pull item 6C. What are your comments?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, when we first started discussing the AOB, and we found that we might be able to enhance it as a quote-unquote park or marine park, let's call it that, not the AOB. I'm a bit dismayed to see so many parking spaces. It was supposed to be a park, not parking. It does not mean I oppose the project, but you can see from east to west parking spaces. There's very little open space towards the water. And I hope we can maximize its use as a view shed to see the water, to actually have a trail there with some shade trees, a pagoda, pavilion of sorts. But that was a little dismaying when I saw the whole property filled up with approximately 60 some odd spaces for truck trailer combo. I had suggested that we double what we have now, but it seems the commission is going in another direction. I will still support the project. Perhaps we can get together and maybe diminish that amount of parking by some and keep a little open space. Also, something very important, I know Commissioner Colodi mentioned enhancing the shoreline. It's been my wish, and I hope that either the Marine Discovery Center or another agency, I'm sure the MDC would love to have a chance, an opportunity to make it a living shoreline. And it might be perfect for a living shoreline. It's a good example of a way to revive the river, to provide the plants that it needs and other life forms that I don't know what they are, but they would be part of what a living shoreline is. So I don't know if we would require funding or where that funding would come from, if it would require much at all. But I know there are municipalities doing it right now. They're doing it in Brevard. I think it's a good chance for us to take our public space and make it a good example to do that. As far as finger piers, I agree with Commissioner Colodi. At the ramps, I would like to see, instead of the wooden piers that are there now, some floating ones, but I am concerned about the constrained space within that little basin between the east and west side. If we could fit in some floating piers there, I would support that. But I hope it's not a problem getting that done. But those are my only comments. I'm glad to see, hopefully we're finally moving forward on that.
Okay. Did you also have comments on this one?
Yeah, just need some clarification. A lot going on. We had this original plan for the parking, cleaning, just organizing it a little bit. We were going to do that with city funds, but now, clarify for me, that is now going to be part of the grant application?
No, the trailer parking is part of the parking fund.
Okay, good. Now, I guess what we're talking about right now is the grant money for adding the docks. And is that through, you're talking about through FIND, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to clarify that when we accept the money through FIND, there will be, there are strings attached with that money. I generally don't like to encumber the property. However, with what we're proposing here, I'm comfortable with doing that. And other than that, Commissioner Colodi, I need some clarification on what you were adding, shoreline restoration and additional funding. Can you give me some more information, what that would cost, or what exactly are you talking about?
Well, about 20% or 25% of the shoreline is just concrete rubble. It was pushed into the water when they took down the sewer plant. And this would be restoration of mangroves, if that's appropriate. Just to improve it and improve the water quality in the river. It's a mess. If you go out there now, you'll see it. It's not the safest thing in the world. There's concrete sticking up. There's people climbing over it.
Right,
It's not the best.
and I agree.
Okay.
But you know, I want to make a point. Shoreline restoration. Are we talking about a living shoreline with oysters? If we do, you know, one of the issues that's happening along Riverside Drive is, it's a designated scenic highway. But where mangroves never grew in the past, they're now growing up. So it's no longer, it's going to, at some point, it will not be a scenic drive. So I know that a big part of the community, people want the open space and be able to see the water. That was a big part of not developing that property. So I'm just throwing that out there, that when we start talking about shoreline restoration, what does that actually mean? What's the end result? And, you know, are we going to put docks in, not put docks in? Shoreline restoration may be counterproductive, certain kinds of shoreline restoration. So I'm just looking to kayak launches and docks. So I'm just trying to get an idea before I commit to anything. What exactly are we talking about? What's the plan?
Well,
Thank you.
as of this point right now, we're just, we're approving funding so it can be designed. There's no construction proposed. This is only to prepare the design so that we can then move forward with it. Another aspect of the safety improvement, as Commissioner Sachs brought up, it's not a very big area for boats between the north and the south boat ramp. And when you get a storm come up on the weekend, or whenever people decide to all come in, it's hectic out there, to say the least.
I would never want to be, I've seen it many times.
Yes,
So,
so
all right.
it's a true safety improvement at that aspect.
Okay. So you're asking to add the design in for some shoreline restoration on that?
Yeah, just design, no cash for construction. It may prove to be unnecessary when we look into it, but if we don't put it in the grant application, we can't get it. So,
I agree.
thank you.
Commissioner Hartman?
So I agree with Commissioner Colodi, but I'm also a little concerned because we were striving to do this last grant cycle, and we missed the deadline by a couple of
Yes.
days. And I would hate to get into design issues, discussions about what we want, don't want, at this point in the game. I would rather go forward with this particular grant now, get it on the books, and at a visioning session or some other session, we could come up with particulars about what we want to do in the future and then move forward with at that process at that time. There's always other grants. There are probably other grants through other agencies to do the living shoreline. But I don't want anything to hinder this being missed again like it was last cycle. These are some very important safety issues with the finger piers. So I think I would prefer that we just go ahead with this one now and then work on the others at a time later.
So if we go forward with this now, and we got, let's say it was approved, and I was going to maybe turn to our fine rep is here, who's going to carry the water for us on this, so I may talk to him in a minute. But if it's, let's just say it's approved, we do the design. We've had dedicated meetings to AOB, and I'm pretty sure we've gotten further and further away from a consensus versus closer and closer to a consensus. So my concern is that we ask for money, we get the money, and then we never finalize a design that we do anything with, and what that does for future grant applications and our chances of getting those, and how that's viewed by our colleagues at Fine. I think that's my concern at this point. I don't not support anything you said, to be very clear, actually anything anybody said, but I'm concerned about rushing it and the timing, because this site has been the matter of probably as many, this and the trolley idea, the two things I hear talked about more than almost anything else. So, so what are your thoughts on that? You've obviously given this some thought. So what are your...
I think your concerns are very valid, and that's part of the reason why we weren't granted a one-day grace period for submitting the last grant, because we, I shouldn't use the word reneged, but we didn't follow through on other grants such as the mooring fields. So I can see that, and I understand Commissioner Hartman's concerns also. We would have, if changes could be made, it would be the 22nd of March, and we would have to file by the 28th. There is work involved in preparing the grant application, so taking all that into account, I'm more than happy to support it as it's written right now, and then we can deal with the shoreline preservation separately.
Yeah, I mean, I could support just not doing anything tonight and making a decision on at our next meeting, the 22nd. We can always approve it as is. That gives us a little more time to dialogue with staff. I mean, I didn't know where your head was at on this, so, this is kind of my first time hearing about it. So I'd love to just get more perspective, talk to our fine rep, who we were blessed to have right here in our community, get his insight and input on this, and maybe then we can always come back to this, or we can, at that point, kick into high gear and maybe add some of these elements, maybe not all, but maybe we just tackle the shoreline, what we think has a high chance of completion. So I would be comfortable with that. I don't know what the rest of the commission is.
So basically, you're saying you'd be willing to put it off for 2 weeks, see if we can gather the information?
Yeah,
and
just so
then
I can,
proceed.
now that I know what you're talking about.
I don't want us to miss this next
No, we
grant
can't,
opportunity.
100%. Can't, I'd call a special meeting before we miss
Okay.
the deadline.
I leave it up to the rest of the commissioners.
So why
How do
don't we
proceed now?
vote on this tonight, and then we can add a motion in 2 weeks if we want to on the shoreline restoration.
Does that work?
That way we've,
Okay, I actually like that. That way this
Very good.
gets going, we can always add to it if we choose to later.
Okay, in that case, I'll,
Sorry. Did you have a comment before we did that?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I can see that we all agree that, first of all, floating docks in place of those wooden quays are terrible. The ones that are there are terrible.
Yeah.
The floating docks is a very good idea. What was confusing about this grant application was to see the land side and the parking. That is not really included in the fine grant,
I think it was just a
correct?
graphic they
It's
used,
just a
correct,
graphic?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we do need these safety enhancements.
Okay.
And I don't mind going forward now, or if you guys prefer later. The enhanced shoreline, the living shoreline, is something we need to discuss with, let's start with MDC. Chad
Yeah.
is very knowledgeable about that. We don't even know where funding would come from, so that could be a separate discussion and vote. But I strongly support that, but we don't have to include that in discussions tonight.
All right, Commissioner Clody.
I will make a motion to approve item 6C as written and requested.
second.
City Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
So that item's approved, and then now that I know where you're heading, I'll talk to staff, I'll talk to Buddy, and then we'll see if we got enough support to bring, have something on the next agenda. And obviously, you are welcome to do the same.
And Mayor, if we are able to prepare another application, we will come back on the 22nd. We could just delete this one and submit the new one if we have some time and to get all the information for it.
Okay. So I had two items, and I pulled, it was E and F, and both of them, it's the same issue. We can even combine them. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear. The way these were written was a little bit different than standard in that there was no clear staff recommendation. The staff recommendation was basically either accept it or deny it. So I didn't want that to just get lumped in with consent, so that we were very clear that we were approving or denying. So I'd be looking for a motion on items E and F, and again, I think it would be okay if we did it together. Items E and F to, in the affirmative, that we are going with the approval of these items if that is the will of the commission. And then I've talked to Khaled about, we're going to make sure we tighten that language up in future ones, so it's always very clear, that's written with a clear staff recommendation, so the motion would always be clear.
I'll make that motion. Approve as written.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
So motion to approve items E and F, so to accept the approval side of that as written. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then one thing I forgot to mention on another one, we've already voted, but Khaled, did you confirm that the turf field was removed on the True Green thing? The True Green contract? Okay, good. All right, next item up, item 7A. This is a license agreement. I believe we got a staff presentation.
Yes, Commission. This is an appeal for an interpretation of a license agreement concerning South Atlantic Avenue 2901. Specifically, the property is known as Joy by the Sea. It started under our previous development services director, was kind of left hanging in his departure, and we're trying to settle the issue now. It concerns an existing license agreement that was approved in 2002, or 2020, I'm sorry, and which is now attached to your staff report as Exhibit C. That license agreement allowed for 2 improved parking spaces to be placed within the East 19th Avenue right-of-way. And the question that's being directed to the Commission now is whether the 2 existing signs that are posted there adjacent to the parking spaces by the owner, which are shown in various photos in your staff report, violate the Section 11 text of the license agreement, the requirement to not interfere or restrict public use of the property. For some background, there are 2 buildings there. They each have 3 units, recently renovated, the addition of a swimming pool in the middle, and they're available now for short-term rental. The 2 improved parking spaces were constructed in the city right-of-way between South Atlantic and Hill as a result of the particular item in the R3 zoning classification. That allows for properties to claim credit for required parking spaces that is in the right-of-way, specifically between the front property line and the edge of the pavement or the travel lane. The signs themselves, as you've seen in the picture, are explicit in that they're designated for Unit 1 or 2 resident or guest parking. And we feel...
Hang on real quick, Jeff. I just want to clarify because I had a question here. So the pictures he's talking about, if we go to their site photos, Exhibit F, and then also there was an email, I think. So
right.
There's some of your site pictures.
We have those pictures of the signs, and so does the applicant in their exhibit that they recently submitted.
There's also an email attached from the applicant, Exhibit H, that has some pictures in it as well.
So that is one of the 2 subject signs. That's the second one. Unit 2, resident and guest parking. And the paved parking area that's adjacent to the signs that's within the right-of-way, that is what was approved as part of the license agreement by you in 2020 and was also approved as part of the site plan. The signs were never shown on any of the documents that were submitted for approval for the license agreement or the site plan. And we have had some neighborhood input, and we also believe that by going out there and seeing those, that those are somewhat implicit in the fact that they are exclusively for the use of the residents. There's not really a resident there since it's strictly a short-term rental, so that term itself is kind of a bit misleading. But resident or guest, when in reality they're in the public right-of-way, they're available for use by anybody from the public, and these signs seem to restrict those. So that's about as clear as I can get. I don't know if there's much more detail needed.
All right. So gentlemen, we've got staff here. They've made their presentation. This is an application. I'm going to suggest that we also hear from the applicant. We'll give them a few minutes to hear from the applicant too. I think they're here. But before we do that, if you will, do we have questions or anything directed at staff before we hear from the applicant? Anything to clarify with Jeff?
Yeah, are we talking about 2 spaces or more than 2? My understanding was along the north side of the property was the issue.
The north side is the 2 parallel parking spaces in which the applicant, the owner, actually constructed the paved parking spaces with the concrete border shown in the picture. And that was all approved both by the license agreement and the site plan, but the signs were never part of that.
Right, so we're not talking, those are the 2 spaces. There's not additional, because in the pictures I see more spaces.
The other 4 spaces, correct me if I say anything wrong. The other 4 spaces, we have a much smaller scale issue. My understanding is there's a matter of inches or maybe a foot or so that encroaches
The
into right of way.
back part
It's
of it.
into the Hill Street right away on the
But there's
east
really been
side.
no complaints. I don't think the neighbors, I think that's
Right.
kind of a non-issue. We're really focused on the two.
The two north properties,
Is
okay.
my
I just wanted to
understanding.
make sure I understood that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other questions for staff? Yes.
Yes, Jeff, did anybody actually take a tape measure out to the east parking? Because it looks like the retaining concrete that holds the block in actually sits out into the road. Now, I didn't take a measure, but it,
Well, when you're dealing with a shell road, it's awful hard to determine an exact edge of roadway. Particularly, this has been altered through the construction, and now it's harder to separate where the previous road was, where the new road surface is. It's all shell outside of the concrete and
right.
the border around there.
And I know that's not what we're considering tonight, but after seeing the site, I thought that was a little troubling. Thanks.
All right.
So the road on the north side of the property is actually a city right-of-way and not a county?
This is city right away between South Atlantic and Hill Street.
Okay.
The county doesn't start till the other side of Hill Street.
So 19th Avenue is a city.
Right.
It's a city right away here. Okay. Gentlemen, I suggest we hear from the applicant on this. So we'll have, if you guys have a, and please know we've gotten all this, we've read the email, so.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, I have a lot written out, but I'm sure you don't want to hear all of it. A couple things. The picture he put up regarding the restrictions, those were the first signs that were put up. Those restrictions have been moved. It does say parking for, oh, by the way, I'm Joy Russo. I'm the owner of Joy by the Sea. Hi, Kelly. Nice to meet you. Thanks for being so efficient all the time. I mean, I have everything written out here. What questions do you have for me regarding, I mean, I could tell you exactly what transpired from the time I purchased the property in July of 2020. I don't know if you want me to go over the timeline because I know you have that.
I mean,
my issue is we were allocated 6 parking spots, 2 on the side of in question, and on that side, adjacent to this little walk area here, this little parking spot here, there are 4 public parking spots, and then right where the walkway is, just beyond that, there are 4 more public parking spots. So there are 8 public parking spots. These 2 here, when Brian Fields was the assistant city manager, I asked him, what can I put there? I understand they can't be restrictive. I know it's not our property. But in order for us to have an upscale, luxury community like this, we have to have parking. I mean, how am I going to tell people, okay, you can park here, we're charging you an arm and a leg. It is probably the nicest facility in New Smyrna. You visited it. Are they going to have to park across A1A and drag their kids and their luggage and their pets across the street to come and stay in an upscale community? Does that sound like a prudent choice for them? I'll be out of business with that. I mean, we need 6 parking spaces. And yeah, I know, we can go to a Truist and, it'll say parking for Truist. It's not a towaway zone. We could still park there. This doesn't say towaway zone. It doesn't say restricted. So what can I put on these parking spots just so my guests can, say, all right, so this is my parking. I mean, if my guests come there and we have, a bunch of beachgoers there, where do they go to park? Are the neighbors who complain? I mean, tell me how I need your help. I'm asking for an exception.
Okay.
I mean, would you like me to read all those?
No.
I mean, I know you have
yeah.
all the facts, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, this was not an issue. I had the signs up on August the 3rd of 2021. I got the CO on 20 days later. These signs were up. The restrictive ones were up. There are inspectors there from the city every week, sometimes twice, 3 times a week. No one ever mentioned anything about the signs being non-compliant until one neighbor complained. He was sending letters to Brian constantly. They come there, and you were there that day when neighbors come, they take pictures. Within 10 minutes, the cops are there, and it's been harassment from day one. They didn't want this here. Yeah, they love the way it makes the property look, but they want to keep it the way it was. And I'm sorry, when we're trying to grow, It's going to be uncomfortable at times, but, you know, I need your help, commissioners. I need your help, Mayor Owens, because if I don't get these signs, if I don't have parking, there goes my life savings.
Okay. All right.
I mean,
Thank
if you all have any questions for me?
So what we're gonna do now is we'll discuss it. If you can have a seat back there, and then if we
Okay.
have questions or have something for you, we'll bring it up. All right. Commission. Jeff, I did have one question for you. I'll kick it off. So, and I think you touched on this, but I might have been thinking about something else when you said it. So these two parking spaces were allowed to be part of their parking calculation. There was a requirement, there's a required amount of parking per the city, and we allowed this to be part of their calculation. Is that a yes or
Right.
no?
Those two spaces were counted towards their minimum requirement of 6 parking spaces, 1 per unit. And then the license agreement was a separate matter
Right.
for use of the right-of-way.
Because they wanted to put the pavers there.
Right.
Was
paver-
counting them as part of the parking, was that a special thing that we did here? I'm trying to just remember, is that a special thing that we approved here, or is that a standard practice that happens all throughout the city to use right-of-way parking to meet a parking requirement for a facility?
It's exclusive to this particular zoning, R3A. And we don't typically deal with developments under R3A that much. It was kind of a surprise to know that it was in there. And again, they get credit towards their required parking. We have other parking standards like in the mixed use where commercial businesses can claim credit for a parking space in the street on the
Yeah.
curb in front of their business too.
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean it's just for their use.
right. Okay. All right. It's the commission's. Oh, now everybody wants to get shy. All right.
So I
Go ahead.
do have I'm always willing to shoot first. It's an interesting dilemma. It's a big gray area. You know, I can name multiple properties throughout the city that have fake no parking signs. Fake no parking signs. I know that there's a house on North Atlantic that you actually go into the driveway to get to a beach access. It's pretty interesting. You know, on the surface, I'm certainly not comfortable with any kind of signage saying you cannot park here, it's a tow-away zone. If I understand from the applicant, she has removed all that. And now it simply says Unit 1 or Unit 2 guest parking. You know, as we grow, and we are going to grow, we know what we don't want. We don't want day trippers. We're inundated with traffic. They don't necessarily spend much money here. And then we have someone who puts up a very nice facility that is going to bring to the community the kind of people who are going to spend a lot of money and not have a big impact. So these are just normal growing pains that we have to deal with. Under these circumstances, as long as it doesn't say no parking and it doesn't preclude anyone from parking there, I'm comfortable with that. My question for the applicant is, what happens when a renter believes that that parking space is theirs and they leave for, let's say, lunch or dinner, and someone else just parks there going to the beach or whatever, for whatever reason? How does she want to handle that? It's a public right-of-way. I don't particularly care who parks there. I recognize that the sign does not say anyone can. This is sign's a gray area. But my question for the applicant is, hi. So looking at the sign now, it doesn't tell anybody you can't park there. It doesn't say it's a towaway zone. But what happens when someone parks there and your renter cannot?
I'll call the mayor.
Thank you. Absolutely, you have my vote.
I don't know, that's a good question.
So what I don't want this, what I would not want this to turn into is an issue where you feel you're entitled to the parking spot.
Right.
I don't want this to come back.
Right.
So it's a gray area. The sign, I can certainly argue it either way.
Right.
But in the end, the only other people who are going to park there would maybe day trippers trying to come to the beach,
Exactly.
or maybe a neighbor who's having a party. I think that there's some. So it's not really I don't think we're denying anybody by allowing you to put a sign there that says what that says. But on the other flip side of that coin is, you don't get a right to complain. Don't call the city, don't call the police.
I don't intend to, but like I said, there are 8 other spots around there for beachgoers to go to, and typically they're not
Yeah.
full, but on a busy holiday, they're,
Yeah,
they're-
well, I understand. And all I'm telling you is if I support this today,
Okay.
I don't want this to come back that now you're not entitled to the spots, is what I'm saying.
But that kind of implies, it's reserved for them, but it doesn't restrict it.
I don't, excuse me.
Oh, this is Frank Russo.
I don't want the sign to say reserved for. I
Right.
simply want, if you say cottage 1 parking or cottage 2.
So as it stands, is that acceptable? Or you have to vote on that, sorry?
We're going to have to vote
Yeah.
on the whole thing. He's just
Yeah.
giving his
No,
opinion,
I'm
and then we
just-
got to hear from everybody else, so.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't say it doesn't, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. So
Okay.
you've answered the question, you may have an issue there. And I
Right.
just want you to understand where I'm coming from. You have just as much a right to park there as anybody else.
I understand.
You've improved the right-of-way parking area. That's great. There's a sign that leaves a gray area. That's going to go both ways. You may get to use it, but someone may park there.
I agree.
So it's a give and take on both sides.
All right, let's
Thank
hear
you.
from some others on the commission. We'll get to you in a minute. Let's hear from some others on the commission. Commissioner Colodi, go ahead.
During the site plan process, when it went on, you were allowed credit for 6 parking spaces. Personally, I don't know how with 6 units, you only get 6 cars there to begin with, and it's probably short. But that's what you agreed to, and it's what the city agreed to. And I understand that you're not saying you can't park here, but let me just read the thing. What it says is, notice, security surveillance on premises, Joy by the Sea, Unit 1, resident and guest parking. That's restrictive. I don't think anybody who reads that sign think they could legally park there unless they're going to your place. You did a beautiful job. You made a nice place. You got 6 parking spaces, 4 of which you control, 2 of which you don't. And basically, that's what the issue is. I couldn't support leaving this sign up.
Okay. Others, Commissioner Sachs, go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Russo, early on we had contact and I conferred with our top staff. Their findings were that the letter of the law was not met, kind of exceeded it a bit. Granted, it's a very nice property, but the sign, I go back to the sign as well. It really implies that this parking is for tenants at your facility. And the license agreement doesn't allow your sole use of that property. It is for the public. You were granted a license agreement to put the pavers in, but not to have sole use of the property, of the parking area. So I would have to deny.
Okay. Randy.
I mean, this is tough, where Commissioner Clody sees this is definitely a restriction. I don't see that so restrictive. It implies it, but it doesn't mean I can't park there. I don't know. You know, since they've removed the other signs and the tow away and all that, I have less of a problem with it. I can't see where this may imply that, but it doesn't prevent somebody from parking there. And we did allow them to do that, and it went through the whole inspection process that way. And in one of the reports, it says they have somewhat of a right to use those parking spaces. So, I don't know.
Okay.
Point.
So my thoughts are this, and I've struggled. This one is, it is a gray area, because I absolutely agree with everything that was said by my colleagues over here in some ways, shape, form, or fashion, and I agree with my colleagues on this side. But here's where I think I've landed, and I've given this one considerable thought, but where I think I've landed is, I think the city created this issue. We allowed this. We allowed those spaces to be used in the calculation. And so therefore, by not allowing them to be allocated for the property in some way, shape, form, or fashion, as they have done, we're just going to create other issues. And so, I don't enjoy, because that's my tax dollars on that right of way, in some way. It's my tax dollars that paid for that right of way at some point in time. So I don't like that someone feels entitled to the public right of way in any way. I don't support that, and I've said as much. And I do think we were extremely clear, and I went back and watched the video. And at the meeting where we approved this license agreement, Brian said, and I quote, roughly quote, I guess, "This doesn't give you exclusive use of the right-of-way." So we made that very clear from the beginning. However, I do think we collectively, the city, me included, should have been able to, then what? You're creating a facility with 6 spaces, or the need for 6 spaces, so where are those other spaces going to come from? So I think, to me, we have to live and learn on this one, but we have to go back to the thing that Jeff brought up and saying, listen, this is kind of an oddity. Let's make sure we address this, because I don't want to go down this path again, because this hasn't been fun for anyone, for the applicant, for the city, for the neighbors, for anyone involved. So, but I also want to say this. We're going to make a decision here in a minute. It's going to go one way or the other, and I actually can't tell which way it's going to go, because I don't know what Hartman's thinking down there. But we're going to make a decision. And I was down there for about a half hour meeting with the owners. And during that, just that 1.5 hour meeting, and she referenced it, I saw some things that were concerning. So my challenge to everyone involved is this: the applicant and the neighbors in the neighborhood. And I don't know if any of them are here, if they'll listen eventually maybe, but we've got to make a decision, and then hopefully we can move on as good neighbors, whatever that decision is from this point forward. What I fear is, if this is, let's say it's approved tonight, well then, the neighbors are, parking their cars there, going out of the way to negatively, negatively impact this entity. Or if it goes the other way and it's denied, there's bad blood there. So I don't want this to escalate. I think that we are where we are, and we've got to move on. And I know we've all dealt with development around us. I know it can be painful, but what I saw, I sat there. It was a long story, but there was something that was delivered. They were immediately working on that. It was blocking the road, but they were immediately working on clearing that out. And in the amount of time that I stood there, an officer rolled up. So we got a call about the road being blocked. It was cleared out before I left. I was there a total of 30 minutes. In that time, someone got in a car I watched them from 2 or 3 doors down and drove down and took pictures Like, those are neighborhood situations that escalate, and then all of a sudden, professional, rational, sane human beings do something stupid. So I hope that whatever the decision is tonight by this body, that everyone accepts it and we move on. And I certainly have learned a lot, and I can tell you, whatever the decision is tonight, I want to see us, I'm going to be much more careful with these kind of things. The next one that comes before us for a vote, I'm going to be pretty careful about that, because this is something we probably could have anticipated, and I'll own that mea culpa. Probably could have anticipated this, should have given it more consideration when it first came before us. But we are where we are tonight, and I don't see, I mean, one thing from the neighbors was put an installation of public parking allowed signage there. Well, where does that stop? You want me to come to every house up and down Hill Street and put public parking allowed in the right of way in front of every house along Hill Street? And then let's go all the way down Atlantic, and let's go down Peninsula, let's go down your road. That doesn't stop. So I think we've learned some lessons, and hopefully we can all move on professionally from this point. So,
Mayor, is this open up for public comment?
it is not by nature of the item, and it's not a public hearing.
All right, I just wanted to make sure, because
No.
I'll make a motion. I'm going to make a motion that the sign reads Joy by the Sea, Unit 1 parking. Going to have the logo, you're going to remove the security surveillance on premises. That can be anywhere else on the property, you get the point across. So my motion is to simply those simple words on a sign that is as big as existing, eliminating the notice of security surveillance on premises.
Do I have a second? All right, lack of a second, that motion dies. Just for clarity, so this is I think, Carrie, we need a motion kind of one way or the other, right? The applicant.
Well, there's no specific action requested. It's been brought to you for discussion. So you could spontaneously make a motion such as Vice Mayor McGurk just did. There could also be a motion to terminate the license agreement. Any other, or you can just say we're not going to take any action at this time and do nothing.
I guess what I'm saying is what happens in that case? Because there's a staff recommendation in this, I believe. So
Right,
if
there's
we do-
no
if we do
application
no-
in
if we
front
do-
of you, though. It's just an
Yeah,
issue that you're
okay.
hearing about.
So if we do nothing, staff would presumably take no action. I just want the commission very clear, the choices we have at it.
It would mean you're fine with the sign staying
If we
up.
do nothing, staff will take no action. So if we want staff to take any action from where we are today, we need to make a motion. One has failed. Is there another motion? All right. Yes.
I make a motion that the signs as are written be removed. I would accept, well, that's it. That's my motion.
Motion that the signs be removed. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, I have a second to that motion. No discussion on that. City Clerk, if you call the roll.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
No.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion passed that the signs be removed. So license agreement is in place, signs are removed. All right. So that was, so talk to Khaled, he'll walk you through it. I mean, it's kind of no formal appeal process. This was anyway, Khaled will talk you through it. But that was the motion of the commission tonight, was that the signs be removed. So if you want to appeal it, talk to Khaled, I don't know.
Yeah, you would need to consult with an attorney, but as far as you've exhausted any appeals to this group.
I mean, the committee, hang on. We're not going to have outbursts from the audience. That's not how we run any business. That's not how you run your business. So the body can reconsider. So that, to me, is the appeal process, is they talk to the body. But other than that, I would say talk to attorney, talk to city manager, but outside of that, it would have to be by someone that approved the motion would have to make a motion to reconsider. That would be the way that decision is changed. That's applicable in any decision this body makes. That's just how the business of the nation. So that would be something, we're not going to debate that right here tonight. That would be something that you saw the three that voted for. You can talk to them and you can figure out, but only they can do it. I can't, so. All right, we're going to move on. Item 7B, consider a request to lower the speed limit on Saxon Drive. City manager, do you have a report?
Yes, Commissioner Sachs has requested to lower the speed limit on Saxon Drive. On the 22nd of March, we will bring the agreement for the ISBA with the county. And if the commission approves that, Saxon will be under the city maintenance. The county have done, I think, 3 or 4 speed study on Saxon in the past, and lowering the speed was not warranted.
Okay.
However, since that time, traffic has changed and population has changed on Saxon. A lot of homes were built on the west side of Saxon. So if the commission wants to do another speed study, that's something that has to be done by a consultant. So if the commission desires, we'll bring back on the next meeting a proposal from a traffic engineer for a traffic study on Saxon.
Okay, this is your item. I'll give you a minute to lead us off if you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, gentlemen, I don't know how often you travel Saxon. It is, for us locals, a thoroughfare. But it is actually not a thoroughfare. It is, the county never declared it one. It is actually a local street. If you've been down, and you can see it's constrained by its narrowness, it's very damaged. And that's from semi-trucks speeding down the road. You'll notice that the volume has increased tremendously if you try to wait at 3rd and Saxon to make the light to go northbound or to go westbound at the light at Saxon near CVS. The people who live in the Walters homes now have quite a few curb cuts. There's probably over 20 new curb cuts. And it's very difficult for them to get out of their driveways. It's a dangerous situation. That's not the only dangerous area. And we've been there for 20 years now, and many people have come while I was an elected, while I was a civilian, that they said, boy, this is a dangerous road. We need to lower the speed to 25. And I'm like, well, I don't think you could ever get there, but I do know that the city has the right, if it owns the road, to lower it by 5 miles an hour. Now, will that do very much? It may do something by a small percentage. Some people will abide by the new speed limit. It will force others to slow down. It will send the message for people to have the kind of respect for life that we so deserve, our quality of life. Atlantic Avenue is a speedway, literally. And today I just happened to walk down the trail on Saxon. Nobody does 35. Nobody does 30. They do 40, 45, and faster. And they're large trucks, and it's dangerous. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So I ask you, what I believe is we're going to do another speed study, and it's going to come out with the same results. If it's the same firm that does their work for us, I can foresee it. When the county did speed studies, they said it wasn't warranted. But now, with the ISBA change, and we'll own the road, I think it is warranted because of the changes in that road, because of the new constraints, because of the increased volume and the speeding. You don't need a speed gun to know that people are speeding down that road. So I ask you tonight, will you join me? Can I get a second for the motion to lower the speed limit by 5? And at the very least, I will accept another speed study. But all in all, we have low-speed vehicles driving down the road. We have a few older people driving slowly the speed limit. But for the most part, people are really exceeding the speed there. And it's out of control. And, you know, we see it on Riverside, we saw it on Magnolia. I'm sure you guys have a few in your neighborhoods that it is really a bad, dangerous situation. And, you know, people over the years have asked for Atlantic to be lowered to 20. And I'm like, well, that's not realistic, but there are certain things that are, that we can do to make things safer.
Okay.
So if I could make a motion to lower the speed limit by 5 when we are the new owners, according to the ISBA, I'm looking for a second.
So we had a motion to lower the speed limit by 5 miles an hour on Saxon. Do I have a second?
Point of order,
Yes.
we don't own Saxton. How can we lower the speed limit on a road that we don't own that's county controlled? I think your motion is premature and is not relevant at this time until we actually amend the ISBA and we actually take ownership of Saxton Road. So your motion would be a little premature at this time.
Well, how about when we own it?
When we own it, bring it up. I mean, it's been postponed for 3 months now. I don't know that we'll ever get to a point where we even amend the ISBA. But at some point, if we do, and that happens to be one of the things, I'll be happy to take a look at it at that time.
I was prepared to go to the county to ask them to lower it, but learning that at the end of March, we will, that's why I'm going forward with it now. So if you don't support it now, I'll bring it up again.
I'll second it for discussion.
Thank you. We had a motion, we had a second for discussion.
Do you rule on my point of order?
I knew you were going to call me out on the Mr. Parliamentarian. No, that's where I was about to come. We did not, but can we had a motion. We had a second.
Okay,
Go ahead.
my only discussion is not even on the merits, whether it should be raised, lowered, but we did a traffic manual, traffic calming manual, and I know of at least 2 major streets that are in the same predicament and are going to come in before the commission and ask for these things. And I just think that we have to treat them all equally, and we have to follow the manual, no matter how right or wrong it is, and handle it that way. So I think your motion is, first of all, a little premature, and second of all, doesn't really follow our guidelines.
Okay.
How does it not follow the guidelines? Except for the fact that right now it's county road.
So we're supposed to have citizen input, and we don't have any.
We will have plenty. I just don't want us to be negligent and delay any longer. Okay, so
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
So my comments were in line with Commissioner Colodey's. You know, I don't go down Saxon that often, admittedly, so I'd give great deference to those who do. But my main concern, and we've talked about this before during the traffic calming, is I think we're going to have more and more of these where we're trying to figure out how to calm traffic, whether that be speed, whether that be cut through traffic, you know, as we were dealt with on Magnolia. But as, you know, look, I learned a lot of lessons going through the Magnolia process, and I came in kind of on the tail end of it. But, you know, my understanding was that we had established a process that we were going to follow when these came up, because otherwise it's going to be the Wild West on these. We're going to have speed limits going up and down and traffic, you know, bumps getting installed, you know, speed humps installed, you know. Like, to me, we've got to have a process to go through, or else this is going to become a little bit like the Wild West. So it's not that I do or do not support it. I just would like to see it go through the process, because otherwise, what do I say to the residents on Riverside or on some other street that have been crying, you know, for a while now that they're dealing with speeding, and it's all of a sudden we've gotten Saxon done in one night. So that's where I'm at. I can support going through the process if what the process says we should do. And if over time we find that the process is saying we never take action, then we amend the process and we say, all right, let's tweak the criteria, because clearly we don't have the right criteria, because we're never getting any kind of an outcome that's, you know, I want to solve problems. So if the problem is we have speeding on Saxon, let's follow a process that gets us to an outcome that solves that issue. So, so for that reason, I couldn't support tonight's motion, but I absolutely support, you know, following that traffic calming process and that traffic calming manual. Colleague, remind me, or maybe even Chief, I don't know, but remind me, what is the jumping off point for the manual? What triggers starting that process? Doesn't it start with is it the resident, like the 50 plus one or seven, whatever the percentage is of
Typically,
residents?
as the residents, they have to have over 50% or 51%. They have to submit a request. And then we go through process by doing a traffic or a speed study on that road.
Yeah.
And if it's warranted, then we bring it back. We bring back the study anyway to the commission for consideration.
So if we had, and they don't even have to all come to the meeting, but if we had just a slew of names up and down Saxon that signed off on a petition, that to me is a good, like, all right, now staff, go follow the process, do the speed study, and then let's see where we're at. But that way we know we're going into it with the support of enough people on the road, and we don't end up with a chamber full of people from both sides, so.
I can certainly provide that. I'll
Okay.
put forward another motion that when we take over the road, according to the ISBA, that.
Hang on, yeah. We already have a motion in a second, so let's, do you withdraw that motion, or do you, because
I'll
you can't put
withdraw
another one
that
forward
motion.
first. So, what's that?
I'll withdraw the
Okay.
previous motion.
That motion was drawn.
I
So now you
withdraw
said
the
it.
second.
Okay. So now you said it, you had another, go ahead.
All right. When we take over the road, that we do a speed study on the road.
Okay, motion that when we take over, we do a speed study on the road. Do I have a second for that?
And I don't believe I even need to ask for a second. I think one citizen can do that. Is that correct?
Excuse me?
Request a speed study? It can be one citizen. It does not have to be a quorum?
Well, if you follow the traffic calming manual, it talks about over 50%. But
Did we adopt we adopted the traffic calming manual, correct?
we did.
Correct.
So I don't know what you're, first of all, you're in the middle of a motion, but I don't know what you mean exactly by what, I mean, I think one citizen can reach out and say, hey, I have an issue with speeding on my street, and chief's gonna try to deploy a resource, maybe that's a sign, maybe that's a whatever, but I don't think any citizen
We
can
could
just.
do the speed study. I'm talking about traffic calming overall, but the speed study is no problem. That's what I mentioned early on. If the commission wants to do a speed study, then I have to get a commission approval for getting a proposal from a consultant. We cannot do it in-house for the length of Saxon.
Okay. So I had a motion to approve a speed study on Saxon. Do I have a second? Commissioner, that dies for lack of a second. Cald, what's the, okay. So I think to me, the steps are, what I could support is, once we own Saxon, if we have a petition from, a bunch of residents on Saxon, I wouldn't even hold firm to even whatever the percent is, but if we just have a representative, enough people, then we can have a conversation about, is enough support, then that triggers the traffic calming manual that we all agreed to follow, so.
You want me to bring back a proposal from a consultant then when we take over?
I think what I heard from the commission was, let's get the signatures, let's get the support of the neighborhood. Let's make sure we have enough support from the neighborhood and following the traffic calming manual, which has appeared before us. Good job. All right. So I think that concludes item 7B, unless there's more discussion on item 7B. Okay, thank you, Kelly. Item 8A is a quasi-judicial public hearing, which is for final subdivision plat development plans. We're going to first hear from the city. As a reminder, this one was one where there was some issues with an exhibit.
Yes.
City manager has, were they all here, or was it was an additional one? I can't remember what you said.
No, they're just kind of, they make sure that they match what's in the staff report.
I gotcha. So the call-outs were, gotcha.
So
if you need
he'll
clarity
point
on
them
that-
out too, Jeff, if you could point out the Exhibit C.
Right.
That's supposed to be, this is the plat.
Right, Exhibit C is the proposed plat. The mix-up was our reviewing surveyor was finishing up some minor errors, typos and whatever, and that got resolved, and we wanted to get you the correct version if we could. That came late, and
That's what I got.
apologize for the mix-up.
So Exhibit C is not, I'm seeing some resonance as well. So Exhibit C isn't working right now. Did we get, so you emailed it to us, is that what you said? Because Exhibit C isn't working. You just clicked on that, and that doesn't work. Let me see if it works on mine. No, no, no.
For all practical purposes, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the previous Exhibit C and the current and Exhibit C that we're asking you to approve.
If you want to see Exhibit C, staff will be happy to send it to you via email. Does that work?
Okay. Yes, I'm sure by now you're all familiar with where the Palms is. This is the 6th phase. Well, actually, it's the 7th, but it's the final phase. And it's the southernmost 68 acres. Fronts on 44 and Airport Road. It's proposed for 209 single-family lots. And so with this ending the phase development totally, there was a maximum of 1,060 residential units that were permitted by the MDA. What it ends up being approved, if this last phase gets approved, it would be total 932 residential lots, which represents just under 88% of the total maximum capacity that could be. Of those 932, 652 are single-family lots and 280 are modern duplex lots. The plat's been reviewed by our surveyor and approved, and traffic impacts have been approved by the county, with Airport Road being their road, and DOT will be the permitting authority for their proposed connection to 44 to the south. There were some commitments in the master development agreement that needed to be satisfied, one of which was an affordable housing commitment and a down payment assistance program. That is now in place, and I think you've seen a presentation on that. The dedication and construction of civic and public areas has been compiled, and the plans themselves have specific sheets that document and show the amount that's required being exceeded by the number of units that were built. There's one remaining item that we're waiting to be done, but it can't be done until they get their St. John's permit. And the PUD calls for a dedication of a total of 445 acres within the total 700 acres of Palms to be conservation easement. So far, they've dedicated 309 acres of that. The remainder will be dedicated as conservation easement, but that, again, that's in conjunction with their St. John's permit. We kind of have leverage on that because they won't be able to start construction until they give us a copy of their St. John's permit, so that will be fulfilled. It just hasn't been fulfilled because it's dependent on St. John's. And with that, we recommend approval. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, so gentlemen, we're going to first have questions for the applicant. We'll then, I'm sorry, for the staff, then we'll hear from the applicant, and then we'll hear from the public at the end. So with that, Commissioner Colodi.
I would just like a clarification. The maximum number of dwelling units is?
1,060.
And there's 600?
That's permitted, yes.
Okay. My question centers on the duplex units.
Right.
Are they lots or units?
They're lots. The term duplex is somewhat misleading because they're not one building with 2 units in it. They each have 1 unit within the building on their own lot. They were called duplexes because they were attached by an exterior wall only.
Okay, so they're actually separate units on separate lots.
Right.
And that complies with the maximum.
Yes. In fact,
Okay.
again, it's well under, it's
Good.
88%.
I agree with you. Terrible way to word it. I couldn't figure out whether it complied or it didn't.
You have to see a
Trying
picture to
figure it out my
understand it.
entire life. The second thing is it's a separate PUD from Venetian Bay, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those are my questions. You
Okay.
cleared it all up.
All right.
Any other questions for staff?
Yes, quick question.
Go ahead.
I'm looking, I apologize, my laptop is not working properly, it's not pulling things up.
Okay.
What's the number of units that are gonna be in conservation, number of units, what is the acreage that's gonna be in conservation?
445.
Okay, and what is the what is the difference, what's the other side of it, that's gonna be developed?
Well, the 445 is conservation easement. It's a total of 706 acres, I think, so.
Okay, 706. I'm
Little
looking
over.
at the plat here that's up on the screen. I thought that when these were platted and the conservation was put in, it was designed to cluster and create habitat conservation in bigger conservation areas. But when I look at the platting, at least up front on this, it doesn't appear to be that way.
You're not seeing the conservation easement area on this plat because the 445 acres are primarily all to the west of the Palms platted area, and they didn't include that in the plat because it's
not part of the plat.
Right.
Got it.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff on this? Yes.
Yes, Jeff, I'm reading in the findings, review of the plat remains to be completed by an independent surveyor. And so many times items come before us, they're not complete, somebody hasn't signed off, and we're supposed to say yes. I'm uncomfortable with that. It typically occurs between P and Z.
That was the case when we posted this on the agenda, but it has since been completed. We've had documentation from the surveyor just this week that he's completed his review and approves it.
Thanks.
Jeff, I had one, oh, sorry, Commissioner Hartman, do you have anything? No. Okay. Jeff, I had one thing, and I'm going to ask the applicant some of the same questions. So I know it's of great interest to the residents of Venetian Bay about the construction of civic and public use areas, which is, staff report has noted, has now occurred. Talk me through that just a little bit.
Okay. Because these are separate PUDs, they only have to satisfy the civic and park requirements within their PUD area. So whatever's in Venetian Bay is an entire different evaluation and count. But they have done it in this area by providing certain features. They have racquetball courts, tennis court, a lake that they're building with a pavilion by it. That's part of this phase. So it's all totals up to meet the acreage requirement for civic and park area. There's numerous neighborhood parks throughout here. And in fact, at this point, they were actually willing to put a lot more park furniture in there along the waterfront areas. So we've all kind of learned as we've gone along with Palms, and this may have more recreational facilities, even though they're small and they're neighborhood pocket parks, than any other phase.
The HOA and or the developer, I don't really care how they sort that out, but they remain responsible for the maintenance of those. Does the city take over those at some point?
No, those are all private.
Okay. All right. But staff is comfortable that within this PUD that they have met the requirements of the civic and public use areas.
Right.
Or they're accounted for.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? All right, we'll now hear from the applicant. I think Amber is here with us.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. Amber Coleman, I'm the applicant and also corporate counsel for the owner, Palms Land Holdings. So this is our final phase. As Jeff said, this is a unique phase, I guess, because it's got a lot of features, I guess, for park, civic, and recreation that aren't on the other ones. We have, this is outside of this particular phase is the pickleball and tennis courts, but it is coming online. But within this phase, we have a fishing pond, fishing docks with shade structures. We have a meditation yoga reflection structure near the fishing pond. We have lots of open space parks for various recreational and civic activities, and pond observation decks and benches throughout this phase. We are, as Jeff said, this is our final phase. We're leaving 128 units on the table. So I know Colodi likes that. Commissioner Colodi, excuse me. And we're finishing up our permitting with St. John's, and with your approval, we'll bring this project online.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant in the presentation? Seeing
I'm not saying a thing.
Seeing none. So, as promised, same question to you, and you touched on it already. So, in this particular phase, what are the recreational amenities that are being provided for? I don't know, again, just talking this phase for now.
So we have a fishing pond, which
Okay.
is the only fishing pond within the Palms. There's, again, lots of pocket parks,
Yeah.
neighborhood parks, that it's a unique feature of the Palms overall. So there'll be more of those. This phase will have observation decks, and our engineer and our director of development is here. So if you want those like defined, they can
Okay.
help you out. But I think they go over the water a bit. There's benches. So, and then the pickleball and the tennis courts are separate from this phase, but it's been approved and they're coming online shortly, so.
Okay. And then what about a meeting space? Was there a meeting space? I heard a lot of chatter about a meeting space.
Yeah,
What
that
it
is not within the Palms PUD.
Right.
That's actually the Venetian Bay
That is-
PUD.
okay. All right. So, not for this, and it won't influence my vote on this, but just as general feedback, honestly more for staff. What I'm hearing overwhelmingly is the residents have been underwhelmed by the recreational amenities provided. Not necessarily maybe if you put them in the totality, total, but just how we approach that. I don't know that this community will ever work through another project of this scale. We did it once. It was approved, when I was in college, and it's just now getting to the very end. I don't know if there will ever be another one, but I hope someone on staff puts a sticky note somewhere on a whiteboard that says if we ever do this again, I think what residents would like to see is probably more of a large-scale park versus all the little tiny pocket parks that are not really, I know I've got kids, you don't take them to a pocket park. You don't show up and look at grass for 20 minutes and then they're bored. So it's not a knock on the developer. I think you guys followed everything that was put in place, again, eons ago. But I think hopefully, I think we've learned some lessons and we'll address this differently in the future. That being said, you hear from that once residents have moved in, but, there's not a house on the market out there. I mean, houses sell about as fast as you guys can build them, so somebody wants it. But I think that's the feedback I've heard. I know, again, a lot of back and forth, and not necessarily related to this, so it won't impact my vote on this, but making sure we are meeting at least even the minimum obligations that we have in this and other phases, and that's, again, a lot of lessons learned, I think, by the city, probably by the applicant as well, just being maybe more clearly defining some of these things and what a meeting space means and putting some parameters around that. So, Jeff, did you have something to add? I saw you got up.
Just in terms of public benefits, public area, one thing that was done here that wasn't required, but was added into their public area is...
They can't hear you back there talking to
Okay.
the mic.
They have a 10-foot bike path trail along the entire frontage of 44. That was not a requirement, never in the plan, but our trails master plan showed that coming to Airport Road, but not going any further. And when we explained that they had the opportunity to put that in and count that towards their public area and get a public benefit for the whole city, they agreed to do that. So that's in here too.
Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, if no other questions for the applicant, don't go far, we may come back to you. We'll now hear from the public. Any members of the public will have comments on this item. This is your chance. Come on forward. Don't be shy. Just give your name and address for the record, if you would.
Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Greg Belitz, and I live at 3445 Pagaso Avenue in Venetian Bay, Savona South.
Okay.
And we bought our home there 11 years ago, and the main reason we bought there was for amenities that we were promised by the developer. And if you look at Venetian Bay, it's apparently going to have around 3,500 residents there. And if you look at that community, that PUD, compared to other communities in Florida, there's no amenities. We don't have, only amenity we have right now, when we moved here, my daughter was 2. Now she's 12. My son was 70, and he's 17. So, there's no parks. We live on Pegaso. We bought on Pegaso Avenue because my kids compete in tennis. So we bought because we were told by Venetian Bay Real Estate and the Johnson Group, and eventually when Martin Pineley came over from GeoSam and bought out everything, they had a model in Venetian Bay Real Estate of the whole community, and it showed the tennis courts in JR's Park that were never built. Still, I've been to 11 annual meetings at Venetian Bay. I've been to every board meeting, and I bring it up every time. I bought there for one reason. There was supposed to be 2 tennis courts, lighted tennis courts. I've got a picture of them right here on the original plan. I even went up to Martin one day, but she wasn't a real fan of me. And I said, Martin, if you're not going to put tennis courts in Venetian Bay, then take it off your website. Because I kept on saying, tennis courts coming soon. This is Florida. We play tennis here. They still, to this day, they're going to build 1 tennis court for 3,500 residents. Because GeoSam, of course, their council's here, and they're all, I go to the meetings. We don't have any council. We have no power, okay? 1 tennis court for 3,500 residents in Venetian Bay. I don't even know if it's a lighted tennis court. What's it going to do during the wintertime when it's beautiful out, 60 degrees, and it's 6 o'clock and it's dark? So I'd like to be able to play some tennis with my kids, even though they train. My daughter trains right now at the Fly-In. My son plays out at the tennis center in Daytona. But it's all about convenience. Everybody says, well, you can go down to Airport Park in Port Orange. But we have a golf cart, okay? And it's hard to get around in golf carts in Venetian Bay because there's no golf cart pass. But so we have a golf cart, we have bicycles, and we can walk. So when you have an amenity in a community, in a PUD like this size, usually you can get to them by golf cart, walking, or running, or bicycles. We shouldn't have to go down the street. Everybody says, every meeting, I bring it up every time. And Lindsay, the manager, always says, Greg, you bring it up every time. I said, I'm going to bring it up every meeting because there's people, believe it or not, that buy into Venetian Bay right now. Hundreds of them. The Palms is GeoSam has not been honest with us at all. All those, there's so many duplexes and multifamily homes they're building in there and everything else. It was supposed to be originally, all the homes are cramming in there. They don't want to spend any money. I mean, you guys, a community this size, there's no amenities. They're going to put 1 tennis court and 2 pickleball courts. And if I don't stand up tonight and say something, it's done. They've already lied to us about our community center. They pulled the wool over our eyes. The board meeting we just had, Bob Johnson stood up. He was the president of the board. And he said that you guys, they weren't honest with us. They're trying to tell us that that's our community center and our clubhouse. I asked Chris from GeoSam, how big is this office that we just bought? He didn't even know. It's 1,800 square feet, barely, okay? That's our clubhouse and our community center? I mean, I'm a 3rd-generation Floridian. I was born and raised in Orlando. I travel for my business all over this beautiful state. I've seen many beautiful PUDs in beautiful areas in Florida. Boca Raton, Naples, St. Augustine. Friends of mine bought a beautiful home up in St. Augustine in a PUD. The developer, like most developers do, they come in and they build all these amenities, they sell all the homes, they give all the hype. Well, they have 4 tennis courts, like 6 pickleball courts. They've got their own gym. They've got a beautiful pool. They've got a clubhouse. And all these amenities they have in there, volleyball courts, they own them. The developer left, and then they own it so they can run it, and so they have amenities. Us, GeoSam owns the pool. That's theirs forever. We got to send them a check every year, whatever. They own the clubhouse. They own the golf course. They own, I guess, the town center. Now they're going to own, I guess, they're trying to put boat parking in there. Well, that was when I spoke with Jerry 11 years ago. He said he had a little spot somewhere, 5 acres somewhere for boat parking, but I didn't think it was going to be right there on airport, but that's another story. But, they weren't honest with us. I mean, you guys see our community. It's big. And I don't know if anybody lives there, but you know, with a place that big and we have no clubhouse. That clubhouse is owned by, that's not our clubhouse, that's owned by GeoSam. That's a golf clubhouse. We need something that we can, you know, say we want to have a party or a wedding. I owned 2 condos over at Ocean Walk, and we moved to Venetian Bay from Ocean Walk on Beachside. And of course, Silvestri built that place, and he's gone now. I guess he handed it over. But when he handed over that association, he handed over, you know, 2 clubhouses, 2 pools, and all those people own it, you know, and they can manage it. But if I don't say anything, we're going to have 1 court, and I don't even know if it's lit.
Okay.
And I guess it's 2 pickleball courts, I think. Yeah, like 2 pickleball courts, which is not, so if I go out there and play with my daughter, and we could play tennis for 3 hours. So say we go out there and play, there's going to be a line, and we're going to, you know, and if I don't say anything, it's over with. I mean, I was thinking that we would need to have, like, I thought we should have at least 3, you know, for the size of the community, and maybe like 4 pickleball courts, and maybe like a little cabana. Because GeoSam's going to put whatever they can as cheap so they can be done with this place and head back off to Canada. That's where they're from. So they're going to head out, and then, you know, we live with the place for the rest of our lives. You know, there's property that's being sucked in all over the place. Like I said, I've been to every board meeting. There's property over there by Airport and 44 that they own. We still don't know what they're going to put there. I brought it up in a meeting with Chris. I said, Chris, what are you going to do with that property? From GeoSam, he goes, well, I don't tell you what you're going to do with your house. That's what he said. That's their property. So if we're going to put a 7-Eleven there or whatever, there's property over there by Pioneer Trail and Airport that they're selling. That's commercial property. So if we don't, it's a property grab right now. And if we don't speak up now, if the property's gone, how are we going to build a clubhouse one day?
Okay.
I'm sorry I went so long. Does anybody want to look at this original plan of Venetian Bay that was approved? I called the city 9 years ago.
If you'll give that to the clerk, she'll pass it around to each of us.
And they said that this was approved, but they said that GeoSam has to put them in, but not until they leave.
Okay.
We don't have any power, that's all I can say. So.
All right. Give that to Kelly. Kelly, can you check the air too? It's getting super warm up here again. I think this air is programmed to go off at 8 o'clock or something, because it happens every meeting. So, Kylie, can you tell somebody? I think this air goes off at 8 o'clock every night or something, because it gets super hot. It always reaches that point. So, anyway, all right. Any others for? Actually, we can do this 1 or 2 ways, Amber. Do you want to just hear from all the public and then address all the comments, or do you want to go one by one?
I want to clarify something.
Okay. Hey, sir. We got to go on with the meeting, so just hand that to her. We're going to hear from the applicant. Appreciate your input. Thank you. Hey, she's got to take the minutes, so I need her paying attention. Thank you.
So, as Jeff confirmed, this is about the Palms PUD. It's a separate PUD from Venetian Bay. That's what public comment is for. If you're not speaking on the item, then you shouldn't be speaking during this time. So I just would ask the mayor, vice mayor, commissioners to reel them in for the item at hand. I know sometimes it's easier said than done, but, you know, this is an ongoing issue. So it's already very late. You know, I'm sure you guys want to get home. I've got kids at home. So yeah, let's just keep it to the item at hand if we can.
Okay. Others for public comment? And to be clear, I mean, this is, look, we're always here to hear from you all. So we're accessible, email, met with many residents, but this is about the Palms Phase 6. So limit your comments to that. That'd be appreciated.
Sure. My name is Ramey Intriago. I live at 182 Cariota Court, right next to Phase 6 in the Palms. I think the reason Greg brought up some of the other issues in the past is because, unfortunately, we can't trust GeoSam anymore, right? Even today, Jeff mentioned a few liens, and when one of the commissioners asked about what was left to be signed, he said, oh, yeah, we just got that. So why didn't he say that from the beginning, right? So it's really disheartening to be misled by the developer. I, too, have been to the HO meetings. You've mentioned a couple of times tonight that you wish you would have done things differently, right, with the lady with the parking and even with what we've done. I thought there was a lien that GeoSam had to have the recreation facility built in Phase 5 before they even started Phase 6. And secondly, they've mentioned about all these recreation areas. Have we seen them? Like, I'm with one of the commissioners. Where is all this recreation area? All I see is a bunch of lots of housing development. The fishing and all that, I mean, where's the access to that from Phase 6? So I just ask you guys to consider not making a decision without proof, because I don't trust GeoSam anymore, right? Like I said, he mentioned something needed to be signed by the St. John's Water people at the beginning, and then somebody questioned, he said, oh yeah, that was before, but now it's signed, right? So where's the proof, right? So I ask you guys to really do due diligence, get proof that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I ask you to consider that they were supposed to be done with the recreation facility in Phase 5 before they started Phase 6, because unfortunately they promised us a lot, they say they're gonna do it, and they don't do it, and then they walk away, and then we're stuck with what unfortunately you're seeing in Venetian Bay, which is a lot of empty promises. So please reconsider that.
Thank you. Others? Yes, come ahead, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Walton, reside at 3529 Tuscany Reserve Boulevard, Venetian Bay in New Smyrna Beach. I'm a retired Coast Guard commander, mostly as a search and rescue pilot, then retired as a accounting professor, and been happily fully retired for 3 years in Venetian Bay. What I want to bring up, a lot of us can, to some extent, echo the two previous speakers here, but what I'd like you to consider is, to the extent you can, hold this in abeyance until GeoSam has made substantial progress in completing the MDA requirements, all of them, not just a few, but all of them. The reason I bring this up, for example, the community center that was brought up. The HOA office that we purchased from GeoSam does have a conference room in it. Has a large table, seats 8 people. GeoSam told us, this is your conference center. This is your community center. This doesn't even pass a smell test. And please, do what you can to not allow a developer to abandon, it's 3,000 households. I don't know how many people that is, but it's 3,000 households. Don't allow a developer to abandon a subdivision of this size in this community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, Tim. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is John Weeks. I live at 249 Venetian Palms Boulevard in the Palms. A couple of comments. I went to the HOA meeting last month or whatever. Very disappointed in a lot of what I heard. I've been in this area since I was 10 years old. I waited a long time to be able to purchase and be what I thought was going to be the last place I would want to reside. I'll go specifically about Phase 6, which, I hear parks and all that. Being a lawyer, I know that definitions can be vague, but I don't call a piece of grass with a bench in it a park. I call it easement open to everybody with a bench in it. So I take something that the word park means to what most people would believe has some type of, leisurely entertainment, life encouraging value, and a lot of what's defined as parks and all these things filled, I don't believe that's what they are. Second of all, I won't get into some other things that when the layout of this came out, it wasn't what I was informed. That's my bad. I could have gone back, and look up these plats or whatnot. But as far as I connect, I'm on a lake in a Paytas home, and I connect. There's a hub up to one of the main entrances into the Palm. And then you go down, and there's a roundabout, and you turn that corner. If you go to the right, you go down, you go to the Meritage Homes, which would become Melito, and I think everybody there, makes that left and connects through there. And if you go down to the south of me, you go into the D.R. Horton's home and then the rest of what's going to be in Phase 6. It's my understanding, and if I'm wrong, I can just sit down and shut up and go home, that there will be a separate entrance off of 44 into what is Venetian Palms Boulevard. And if there's the main, entrance on 44, and then I understand that just west of that, there's going to be another entrance that basically what is being created in my mind after being a former cop for many years, numerous, is you're creating a secondary route where a ton of people will not use Airport Road. They won't come out of the Palms onto Airport Road to go north. They will cut through all the way through Venetian Palms Boulevard. They'll cut all the way through Venetian Palms Boulevard and through Melito to cut off a mile of going through Airport Road. And in my opinion, in front of my house, you're going to create, needless to say, with all the other kids down there, you're going to create, I already have enough speeders, all right? And there's no stop signs, they run adjacent. You're going to create a speeding problem through there with traffic. My real request is, if you're going to allow this to go through tonight or some point in the future, that some type of prohibited things, if you can place speed bumps, something like that, that would detour people because of all the residents, the children, the smallness of the roads, and knowing that people are now going to use this new bypass just to avoid Airport Drive to make everything safe for me and my family and the others in the area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any others for public participation? Joe, come on up.
Joe Dluback again, 3587 Casalta Circle. The picture depicted reminds me that just recently we put up a stop light at Airport Road and 44 because it got to be an incredible safety hazard. Accidents, people were dying there. Here we have the same thing dumping out of Phase 6 onto 44, and there is no cutoff to go to the east. So either you go to the west and toward the land and Route 4, or if you want to go down to the city or to 95, where half of the people would probably go, you need to go west, go to the turnaround, do a U-turn, and come back up. That's got to be, in my mind, kind of an incredible safety issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Any others for public participation on the Palms? All right.
The same concern with Venetian Bay Boulevard Carriota, right? It's going to go all the way to the supposed recreation area that one day GeoSam may build, all the way to Venetian Bay Boulevard. So this, consider some kind of stop signs or speed bumps or something, because that's going to have a propensity to get pretty, Saxon Boulevard-ish as far as speeders. So please.
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Nick Powell with the applicant. I know last two speakers are worried about traffic. This second entrance, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, this MDP that included Phase 6 is all the way back from 2005. This really isn't a new site plan that's being proposed. This entrance is a right exit only onto 44. DOT doesn't want another signalization. They're trying to do away with that completely. But the guy who made a comment before the last resident and then left, there are traffic calming roundabouts through this main entrance. The assumption that someone's going to cut through the neighborhood as opposed to going on Airport Road is misleading. Just wanted to make that assured that that's not going to happen.
All right. Any others yes, sir, for public participation? If you haven't spoke yet, if you've already spoken, it's a one shot and done time. You're good. Come on ahead.
Tony Berkeley, I'm 264 Venetian Palms Boulevard. I think he's very wrong in that, because there's one roundabout right now. And I personally go, like, if I'm going to the town center, we'll take the back roads, because if you cut through if you come off 44 and cut through that way, you're missing a big swoop around on the airport. So I agree, it's going to be an issue. We have a lot of kids on that street. You know, right now there's one roundabout, you know, in this, and then it's pretty much a straight shot with no stop signs, no anything. And I sat listening to everybody else, and it's like, you know, one more person, I'll throw my 2 cents in as well, just so everybody knows that there are, even though just a few people were speaking, you know, there are a lot of people who are very concerned about this. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Are you with the applicant, or are you here to? All right. Any other members of the public? I think we're almost through everyone. All right. It's one shot, one time. So I think we had quite a bit from you. All right. Yes, sir, from the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name's Harry Newkirk, Newkirk Engineering, 1230 North US Highway 1, Ormond Beach. Let's go over the access State Road 44. The original PUD calls for the access to be connected to State Road 44. It is to be used for emergency services. Another access into here if Airport Road is blocked. It is a very safe driveway access. When the Airport Road access had the problems, it wasn't signalized. So you were taking left turns out. That's where the accidents were occurring. We're also consultants for DOT, and DOT takes safety seriously. I mean, they do not permit driveways that aren't safe. So that is very misleading to say this driveway is unsafe. That's how we are changing everything on State Road 44, especially with Coastal Woods, with all the turnaround maneuvers, avoiding lefts. They're trying to reduce left turns out. That's where you run into problems, especially on two-way lanes, because you can't always see the second car. When a second car is speeding and you look out because you got to go both directions, you make a judgment call. That's what they're avoiding, and that's why it's a right in and right out. Very safe maneuver. The idea of cutting through this development, that just doesn't make sense because the roundabouts are traffic calming devices. You can't drive through them fast, or you're running right through the roundabout, which in phase 6 is as our third roundabout. And if you're seeing, and that maybe DOT is going to do one in the city, they solve safety issues, and they're being used in multiple intersections. US 1 has one in Flagler. The parks. The PUD was written in a way to do neighborhood parks, pocket parks. And we have several of them. And on the last go around with planning department, we had probably 4 submittals on parks. The parks wasn't a item that was just approved by planning. No way. That we went around 4 times on that, and on the last one, all the parks, which most of them are passive parks. That's for enjoying the environment. Mr. Jeff Gov here made us put all the parks to the ponds to add another feature. We have signage in these parks so you can learn something about Florida, or what we haven't chosen what we're putting there yet, but those are another requirement for Civic. But I'll say that the planner here, Jeff Gov, is very thorough and probably one of the most thorough planners I've ever met. So it's not an easy process to get a plan approved from a planning perspective. So you got one of the best working here, that's for sure. As far as adding other features you could do speed bumps, but they're not really used. I don't even think they're allowed on public roads because they create other problems. But that could be something worked out with GeoSam. If the residents wanted it, I don't think GeoSam would issue putting up a speed bump somewhere. So if you have any other questions about the safety, or I'm available to answer them. So okay. I appreciate the planning department, everybody that I've worked with on this project, on this one and other ones. They're doing an excellent job for y'all.
All right. Thank you. Okay. We're going to close public participation. I think everyone that had wanted to say something had at least one chance to do so. I'm going to close that, and we'll now hear Any closing remarks from the applicant and or the city? Amber, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you. Again, this is our final phase, and I've been through this from inception to the end, and I'm proud of the project. I know this PUD it's been around for a while, but to see it all the way through and what the final result is, it's cool. I can answer any more questions that you have. If not, thank you so much.
So one question I have. So the concern of cut through, please leave this image up, this is good. And by the way, it may just be me, but I can't access the exhibits on this thing. Right. And I even went to the City of NSB website and downloaded the agenda packet, and I still can't. So
That's correct. The incorrect version was submitted and it was published. We didn't republish. So Khaled sent a email with a corrected link
is that for
for
all the
commission.
exhibits? 'Cause this
Yes,
is
that
any
is
exhibit.
correct.
Okay.
So when he sent an email, it had the corrected
All of the attachments.
information in there. And so after the meeting, we'll go ahead and republish tomorrow and put the correct ones in there, but for publishing's sake.
Okay. So I think the comments we heard was that concern of a cut through, what I'm looking at on my left, your left here, that's the 44 side, right? That's kind of dumping out onto 44 on that side?
On the west side, yeah.
Yeah, and then over here on this far side on your right, and then my right here, that would be, the concern is someone would kind of cut in there, either before the turn or kind of in the middle of that big sweeping turn, and then come through and they're hitting, it looks like 1, 2, 3 roundabouts, and then getting out to 44. If you're heading west, I guess that might be considered a bit of a shortcut. You know, I don't know what. So have y'all considered that? You're saying your stance is people won't do that, or if they do, that the traffic calming of the roundabouts is sufficient?
I certainly think the roundabouts are sufficient. I don't think it makes sense for anybody to be navigating the Palms for any reason other than going to a residence or a park or, you know, using the facilities in the Palms. I mean, you can just see from this picture, there's a lot of things to slow you down. No one's going to be speeding. Actually, the 44 exit has that's from the roundabout to the exit. It's such a short distance. I don't even know how you can pick up too much speed to even be an issue.
Yeah, I think it's probably that long stretch there between that roundabout right off 44, and then you kind of go, and then it's that long straight shot there.
I mean,
so
no one's going to be using this to make any shortcuts. It would actually add
I have been
time.
amazed at the lengths people will go to save 4 seconds. So, any other questions for the applicant before we hear final comments from the city? Seeing none. Thank you. Jeff, closing comments? Any closing questions for Jeff? I think we got some questions. Jeff, come on up.
Jeff, the St. John's permit, will that change anything in what we currently see today and that was submitted to us?
It shouldn't. From my understanding, they were working concurrently on that. And it may be ready to be issued. They just want to finalize the conservation easement aspect of it.
So it won't change any of the what was been submitted. And then the other thing was we won't issue permits until we have that documentation. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, the city engineer won't sign off on them to start construction until we have the St. John's permit in hand.
And is there any other review in this process, or if we approve this tonight, they can start digging as soon as they get approval from us?
They'll have to have a pre-construction meeting with the city engineer.
Okay.
Jeff, quick question. I know this is a plat approval. As I understand, for the most part, what a developer promises the people they sell to. I mean, you get realtors who are notorious for promising things that aren't necessarily accurate. That's nothing new in development. Is there anything that has been brought up tonight by the residents that we can either substantiate that the developers promised, or do we have any role? When I say, do you have any role in being able to keep the developer to their words, other than what is actually before us? Because what I get the sense of is, they go through. This goes back to 2005 originally.
The original PUD, yes.
And it's interesting because I've brought up, over decades things change. I mean, I remember when passive parks were all the rage. Everybody, passive parks are great. It was a part of the planning design. And so I understand why they're in there. And of course now, 15 years later, we're looking at these things like, who wants a passive park? These things don't really help us. I also see where you have older residents who are retired who are looking for certain kinds of amenities, and that doesn't necessarily jive with what I'm hearing from young parents who want open space. And, open space and passive parks are all the rage. We don't have enough space of just fields, kids that play football and soccer. And what's crystallizing in my mind here is what we have is, aside from what the developers may have promised them, which is a shame that, they're not legally obligated to or may not have anything to do with us. But what's crystallizing in my mind now is, over the period of time, how the idea of what amenities people want has changed very dramatically since 2005. And it also changes dramatically based on whether it's more of a retirement who want things. Pickleball didn't exist in 2005. So on the other, and that's very popular with the retirees. And yet I'm also hearing that, from people with younger families, they want places the kids to go run around and play soccer fields and all that kind of stuff. Everybody fights for that one field on Turnbull Bay Road at Sunset Drive, right? There's that empty field next to the parking of the football stadium. And there must be, 100 people who fight for that spot with 3 or 4 or 5 javelin throwing, golf, football, soccer. So it's interesting to listen to the dynamic of what the residents want and what's so different now. And it just gives you an idea of where I'm going with this is, in 2005, this was being discussed. And we're so far down the road to where it's actually coming to fruition. Is there, or should we, or can we have the ability to look at these development agreements and say, wait a second, since so much time has passed, the demand or the desire for certain things that were popular then are not now, and since it's being built now, can we adjust that? So I think that was a long-worded way of me saying 15 years ago and 20 years ago, when passive parks were all the rage in pocket parks and communities, that's really not what we're hearing is wanted now. So we need to find a way where, when so much time passes, we have the ability to reevaluate some elements of these development agreements to meet the current demand. And so thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, we're still working with these ones, the remnant ones that have come down through the ages. For example, in this one, to meet the definition of a neighborhood park, it's 1/10 of an acre, which is under 5,000 square feet.
Right.
So that's all we have to work with is the MDA. We're not necessarily certain of what they're promising.
Thank you.
Commissioner Clutter.
No question, just comments. A lot of questions that were raised about traffic circulation and so on and so forth. We're about 10 years late. That's when the original preliminary plat was laid out and approved by our various bodies, is when they had to be addressed. Basically now is we're legalizing the subdivision of the lots and making lots. They can't deviate from that plan that was approved 10 years ago. We can't make them, and they haven't asked to. So this is just kind of a formalization of the layout of the property. I remember back about 5 years ago, before I was on this board, I was on the planning board when previous phases came up with this. They didn't even have the pocket parks in. We sent them away and said, bring the little pocket parks back in. They had said, we'll address this at some later date. Which kind of leads me to the question one person brought up, was there a provision in Phase 5 that said certain improvements had to be installed before Phase 6? Jeff, I did have a question. I knew I was going somewhere.
There's nothing in the NDA that requires it. In fact, that's the critical element that's missing. There's no timing for any of these. And
Correct.
that's why a lot of this is getting satisfied with the final phase.
Yes, thank you. That's what I thought. As to the attorney's comments, that I would be happy that they didn't get 128 additional lots. That wasn't my decision, wasn't even my request. It's just that the land laid in a certain way that that's all they could squeeze on the property. Now so I'll certainly vote to approve this. As to Venetian Bay and promises that were made and not kept, so on and so forth, has nothing to do with this approval tonight. I've heard it from residents there. I've also heard of various changes that they're planning to make to the PUD that they would like to do. That's the time when we can bring up a lot of issues, such as where did the hardball carts go, where did this go, where did that go? And we can make sure they're all taken into account if they ask for changes. If they ask for no changes, and we're stuck with what our predecessors put forth. That's my comment. There's difficulties out there. I plan to bring before the commission request for changes to the land development code, which would go a long way to satisfying these problems for future developments. And there will be other big PUDs. They're coming west, because that's the only place left for land. So it's imperative that we take action now before they hit our review committees. So those are my comments.
Any comments, Commissioner Sacks, or questions?
No comments.
So a couple of things real quick, just for probably Carrie. Commissioner Cloutier, I think it was well said. I just want to make sure the public understands. This MDA, let's consider it like the agreement that was put in place between the city and, at the time, not even GeoSam, was put in place in 2005. Sorry. It was put in place in 2005. We're roughly still operating off of that same thing. I'm bringing any water tonight. We're roughly operating off of that same agreement. It's been modified a little bit. As they would request changes, then we could request also changes. That's when the negotiation comes in. What you see before us tonight is not a chance. I mean, could we, and I will bring up, but could we request something minor like hey, could we put speed bumps on this road if the commission feels that's necessary? I certainly would rather, to be traffic calming, something it's easier to adjust to the day it's installed versus coming back later, as we dealt with on Magnolia, and now we're talking about on Saxon. So we can look for minor things like that, but coming in and making major changes and saying, hey, we really think there needs to be a massive park, which I do. I've said that earlier, but I have no tools in the tool belt. I can't even say I'm not going to approve this unless you go fulfill all these other obligations that you promised to so-and-so. So what I would say is, and Carrie, I'm going to defer to you here in a minute, let you explain some of this as well, but what I'd say is if you feel that you were told something by a developer and then they haven't delivered, that's between you and a developer. What we are judging as a city is whether or not they have met the legal ramifications of the document that we have with them, which was the MDA, which was, when I was 23 years old, running around this town, was approved. And what staff has told us is that they have. That, again, I've read it. I've read the MDA. Joe has sent it to me probably 2 or 3 times at this point. I've read what it says about a community center. It doesn't delineate how big it has to be. It doesn't delineate where it needs to be. There was considerable lack of anticipation, and maybe the notion was they were leaving enough kind of room on both parts. Thank you, Kelly. Room on both parts. I can't speak for what was happening in 2005, but I can say, thank you so much. I can say where we're at tonight is that, we can't legally, Carrie, what would happen tonight if this body voted no to this, which as Commissioner Colodi summed up, we're really just agreeing to the subdivision and saying this meets the requirements that, that this agreed to. If this body votes no to this, what happens tomorrow morning? But based on, hey, you didn't do what you said you would do, in these other phases. You promised a tennis court and it wasn't there, which by the way, we don't control how something's marketed. They can put whatever they want on a website, and that's between you and them. What we control is what the MDA said had to be there. And even the piece of paper that was circulated, I don't know if that's a legal document. I don't know what that document is, but if it wasn't part of the legal document. So Carrie, what would happen in your estimation, what would happen tomorrow morning if this body votes no to this based on, hey, we don't like how Venetian Bay has been handled?
Correct. So Ms. Coleman would have a number of legal options at her fingertips. This is a quasi-judicial action. It's almost borderline ministerial because the criteria that they have to review are things like survey accuracy, monumentation, lot and block layout. These are very technical details that your professional staff make sure is checked off before they bring it to the commission. So they listen to professional staff, and they've got the review criteria in front of them. They've got professional staff saying the review criteria has been met. They are limited to that criteria. They can't consider anything that's happened in the past, anything that may happen to the future. They are limited to this discrete criteria. So before you tonight, you have your evidence from your professional planner. Mr. Newkirk, engineer, brought forth some testimony. But it all goes to this explicit criteria, and criteria does not include anything outside of this MDA or any other actions of the property owner.
So what you would hear if you had attended every one of our meetings for the past 3 years, at least that I know of, that I've been sitting in this chair and some of my colleagues have joined, many of the things that we have talked about that we have issues with this and other past developments that were approved long ago by our ancestors, we've dealt with that. Like a lot of this stuff wouldn't fly by the code that is on the books today, and we're going to continue to. You heard Commissioner Colodi call for tonight. There's further things we want to change to our land development code so that when the next person comes forward with the next major project, we're going to try to take all the lessons we learned and fold it into the next project. What I can't do, though, unfortunately, is go back 20 years ago and rewind time and rewrite the legal contract that was put in place. We've got to operate based on what is put in front of us today. So the only thing that I heard today that I do have a little bit of, I don't know if we can solve it today, but I guess my question is I would not like this to become a cut through. I don't want to be sitting here, or some future commission sitting here 2 or 3 or 5 years from now having to deal with the residents on that straightaway saying, my kid almost got hit by a speeding car because people were cutting through here. Because that's what we dealt with on Magnolia. Those residents said, look, people go up Magnolia and they use it to bypass US 1. And again, it's amazing what people, I've driven it both ways. It's amazing what people will do to save 12 seconds out of their life. So I think if it were me, I'll defer to the experts, I guess, but if it were me, I'd just go ahead and put some further traffic calming. And if speed bumps are illegal, then Magnolia's illegal. So I think they're legal. I would put further traffic calming along any road that could be used as a cut through. I see 2 long straightaways, the one kind of to the highest, the top where it says kind of phase 3 up there in that corner, and then this long kind of straightaway right in the center. I would encourage traffic calming on that, because if not, we're going to have a problem with that eventually. I just mark my words. So of all the things that I heard today, I think that's one we could actually address today within the scope of this, or at least ask to be addressed within the scope of this. So, Carrie, what are your thoughts on that even? Can we require it,
I
or
think that
can
would
we
be
just
more
ask?
of a site plan issue when they come in and get the development plans. Is there a way to address, the roads are probably not wide enough to add any sort of medians, right?
No, at this point, the plat is set, the right-of-way widths would be set. There may be some additional methods to, pass along.
How wide is that road? Can you tell? Is it one of those like super wide roads, or is
Most
it
of
fairly
the
narrow?
are 50-foot right-of-way. I think the collector road is 60-foot right-of-way.
Okay.
So
Because that is one thing, is if the width of the road is super wide.
the roadway width is the same regardless. It's just the right-of-way width on
Yeah.
the collector is.
Yeah. So what I think I'm hearing you say is we might can touch on this at site plan.
I think it would be, Ms. Coleman, do you have, would you be agreeable to looking at committing to some further traffic calming measures, whether they're speed bumps or Mr.?
I mean, I don't know where the stop signs are going to be through there. Like, I see some long straightaways. We've dealt with this. It's kind of a hot button issue for us. So I'm just trying to, if there's something we can head off at the pass.
Yeah, speed bumps, I have no issue. You guys approve this now. We'll put speed bumps wherever you want. Keep in mind, it is going to be a city-maintained and owned road. Whatever your design requirements for that, have no obligation to that. I think there's 2 four-way intersections. I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit. I think that would, in between your 2 roundabouts, would actually alleviate a lot of that, right?
Yeah, that's what I couldn't tell. I don't know if right there, right below, right in between where it says VBPN, that road in between those 2. I don't know if are those 4-way stops, or is that?
Those are two-way stops, are like on either side.
I see
You
it,
can
where
kinda
the little,
see it.
that
Yes.
is,
If you were to convert them to 4-way stops.
yeah.
At least one.
At least one of them a
here and
4-way
there,
stop.
One up here and one up here. One there and one up.
Yeah, at least one is a 4-way stop and or some traffic, other traffic calming. So I don't want to sit here tonight and debate it because I'm not a traffic engineer, but we've dealt with this in other communities. If it's there from the get-go, nobody's going to come complain. But if it's not there, the minute somebody comes flying past their house, they're going to fill this chamber up and they're going to be complaining about the speeding. I'd rather, and it is going to be our road, so they're going to come talk to us. So I'd rather just deal with it out of the gate, and that way it's always been there. It's my opinion, gentlemen. I don't know what everybody else's opinion is. But I'll defer to staff to work with the developer and figure out some kind of traffic calming through there. Maybe one 4-way stop and then maybe speed, or kind of a raised roadway at the other intersection. I see that pretty common, so. All right,
One thing we could maybe look at is doing raised crosswalks, so where they kind of serve a dual purpose.
Yeah.
I like that.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, a lot of these neighborhoods I traveled to recently, you've got these little speed tables as crosswalk kind of deals, and I
Right.
think that's what you're describing.
Right.
Yeah.
And having those would be perfect. It would stop people from picking up a whole lot of speed.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it blends in, it looks nice.
Yeah. Okay, so we've heard from the public, we heard from the applicant, we heard from the city, and we've all made our remarks. To have a motion on this item. Oh, sorry, I was waiting on somebody to talk.
I make a motion to approve the plat, and that all conditions imposed by the planning board in their report be included.
Okay. Do I have a second? to
Which,
that
for the
motion?
record, includes additional traffic calming measures.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
say-
know.
Oh, no?
Hang on.
No. Okay,
He
no.
didn't include that. Planning board, I think he meant P and Z, everything was included in the staff report coming from P and Z. So the motion was basically approve as submitted.
Oh. I'm gonna remove
No.
my second.
All right. Not hearing a second. Motion dies for lack of a second. Do I have another motion?
So I'm gonna make a motion that includes traffic calming measures and the additional traffic calming measures.
Okay, motion to approve is submitted with the additional some traffic calming measures worked
Second.
out with staff. I have a second on that motion. City Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Colodi,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks. No. Mayor Owen.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Palms Phase 6 is approved. Ordinance number 9A, we got a couple of first readings. Carrie? Yep.
Ordinance number 722. An ordinance, and for the record, this one should have been under public hearings. This is a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, so we will take public comment on this.
Okay.
Ordinance number 722, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use element to add Goal 9, establishing the commercial space industry opportunity overlay, providing for public hearings, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. And we will conduct a public hearing for anyone who is here and would like to speak on this.
Okay. Any members of the public wish to comment on item 9A? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. The second reading and public hearing will be conducted on March 22nd, 2022. Commissioner Clody, you have a comment on this item?
Comments, yes. I found a couple things in this plan addition to be a little troublesome. It says that all these uses would require a PUD, and elsewhere it says it would be in any zone that's industrial zone. So we could be requiring a PUD for a quarter-acre parcel of land, which I think is excessive. And it also says we will have to consider, it wasn't very clear, affordable housing, which is a good idea, but I don't think it really belongs in this ordinance. Those are my two comments.
Okay. Carrie, you want to go and read the next one?
So this is a legislative change. So if it's the majority of the commission who'd like to take out the affordable housing component, so really the way this works is there needs to be some land development regulations that would actually implement this policy. We could continue this and have planning take a closer look at this to determine, I know under our POD provisions, there's a minimum lot size, I believe it might be 2 acres, I'm just off the top of my head. But I would recommend if the commission would like to make some changes and kind of get a little more detailed than what we have here, that we continue this continue this first reading to the next meeting, 3/22, and have planning staff address these comments.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not, I mean, that's the first time hearing of that concern, so I'm certainly not ready to speak to it tonight. So I would.
I do know the goal was to be consistent with what Volusia County and Edgewater had adopted, but obviously we don't have to be in lockstep as long as we're trying to promote the same type of industry. So that's what I would recommend doing, is continuing it for further discussion.
Any objection to, or do we need a motion on that one?
Yes, it would be a motion to continue this public hearing.
Motion to continue this until the first meeting of April?
Your choice.
Okay. Does that give planning staff enough time, you think, Colin? First meeting of April? And that way they can brief us at the 22nd meeting, and then we can make those changes and bring it back at the first meeting in April.
So continue to April 12th.
Well, we got to get that motion. That's what I'm asking. Do I have a motion to continue to the first meeting of April?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
City Clerk. Sorry, go ahead.
Discussion, though?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not on board with eliminating the affordable housing part of it. It's going to really depend on what comes and what goes. There may be an avenue or an option for something within that development area that could include some affordable housing, especially if it's a workforce housing. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm on board with it either. I honestly just wasn't really prepared to discuss and debate it tonight, so I was just going to delay it so it gives us a chance to actually.
So I don't want staff to take all that out.
I don't think I said take it all out. I said the way it's written now is kind of ambiguous. And if you just have a single lot, whether 2 acres or not, someone wants to put in a aircraft engine factory, it's kind of be restrictive.
Right.
Yeah.
There's other things that say that It has to have public transportation nearby it. I just think that we got to look at the wording.
Okay.
I don't want to take affordable housing requirement out. Just I want to make it something that's not going to come back to bite us, just like our PUDs of 12 years ago.
Or 20 years ago.
Yes.
So, Khaled, I think basically just bring it back as it's written now. We'll discuss these concerns, and then at that meeting, give staff any directed changes to bring back at the following April meeting. So if there's consensus from the commission, if there's anything we're going to change.
It sounds to me like the direction would be a discussion item on 322 and then hold the additional public hearing on, or
the first meeting of April. That's so the motion and the second is to postpone to the first meeting of April. That gives us the 22nd to discuss, but don't go making rewrites based on this because we need to get consensus where we're all at. Because I think he's got some valid points, but I'm not ready to discuss them, nor is any of my colleagues. With that, we'll have a city clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGurk?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just one comment.
Sure.
I had made some notes here to discuss this with the manager, and I think I forgot during my meeting.
Okay.
So I didn't want to catch you off guard here, but I did.
I do that all the time.
That's on me.
Usually it's the midnight emails when I remember. All right, Carrie, I think you got one more.
Ordinance
reading.
number 822, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach reapportioning the city's commission zones, providing for amendment of the appendix to the city charter to redefine the boundaries of the city commission zones, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
All right, second reading and public hearing will be conducted March 22nd, 2022. Is this one caused it? Do we need to do public participation on this one?
No, but if anyone is here, we're always welcome to take the comments. The more input on this item, the better.
This is like the 48th time we've talked about it, but sure. All right. Next item up is item 10A, the Personnel Board. We need 3 citizens to serve 3-year terms expiring May 1st, 2025. Do we have a city clerk report?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, there were 5 vacancies on the Personnel Board. It hasn't been in commission, and they haven't met for over 5 years, but there is a need to. We do need to have one as a on-case basis. There were only 2 applications submitted at the time I published it. I did receive one after on Friday that I did want to include. So I sent an email out with that updated packet. And so you have before you 3 applicants, Lori Hartman, Douglas Rose, and Barbara Luttrell, that have applied to be considered to be members on the Personnel Board.
And Mayor, since one of them is a very close relative of mine, I'm going to excuse myself from the dais.
Okay. I saw the last name. I was wondering if that was. Remind me, Carrie or Kelly, and for the public's benefit, Personnel Board, that doesn't relate to anything for the commission. They're not voting on anything related to the commission. What is the Personnel Advisory Board? What do they deal with in summary?
Appeals of adverse employment action or disciplinary, we often see it in our police, fire, those types of the unions. Doesn't happen very much with your general employees, but it could.
Okay. And so the attorney's comfortable that we're okay with someone related to a commissioner serving on this particular board?
Yes, there's a specific exemption in Florida statutes for cities under 38,000 in population that as long as it's not a land use board, that you can appoint a relative.
Okay. All right. It's the commission's pleasure on this. We have 3 vacancies. We have 3 applicants.
We have 3 vacancies and 3 applicants?
That's what we're sitting on right now.
Motion? Well, do you want a motion or do you just want a suggestion?
Yeah, I mean.
Motion. I'll make a motion to approve the 3 applicants for the 3 vacancies.
Motion to appoint the 3 applicants. Do I have a second on that?
Yes, I will second that and talk about it later.
All right, well, now's later.
No, it's not. Under commission comments, it doesn't directly relate to this.
Later. So I'm going to talk about it now, and I'm going to say I have immense respect for both Commissioner Hartman and Lori. We're a city of 30,000 plus. I have to imagine we could find someone else, and I wouldn't want to put anyone in a difficult situation. And I do have, again, not that I think she would do anything inappropriate, because I don't, but I would want to just avoid the appearances of, since it's related to an employee, and then, yeah, I don't know, that just doesn't, again, I know it's okay, we've been told it's okay by the city attorney, I just don't think it's ideal. And again, that's not disparaging the Hartmans in any way, shape, form, or fashion, because I think they would be okay. I don't want to subject them to, I think, a possible public perception. So for that reason, I can't support that particular appointment. But so that's just my thoughts. But that being said, it's only 3 applicants. So, I don't know. I had a motion and a second. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Vice Mayor McGurk.
Yes.
Commissioner Sacks.
Yes.
Commissioner Cloney.
Yes.
Mayor Owen.
No. All right. Congratulations to those 3. The city clerk will email the board information to you. We also have a planning and zoning board appointment citizen, appointment of 1 citizen to fulfill a unexpired vacancy expiring October 31st, 2022. So it's coming up shortly. We have 9 citizens. Gentlemen, I checked these resumes. We had strong applicants for that board. Sorry, go ahead. Do you have a report? Go ahead.
We do just a short one. We had 1 vacancy created by John Causey. His seat needs to be filled until October 31st, 2022. Just wanted to bring to your attention, we do have 3 of the applicants that are currently serving on boards right now. Carl Hodges is a member of the Historic Preservation Committee. Arthur Von Bulen is a member of the Building Trades Board. And Stephen Yates was just nominated or appointed to the Neighborhood Council, but he hasn't been to a meeting yet because that's on hold. But that is a newly appointed citizen. Okay. So there's 1 vacancy. Everybody has the pleasure of making 1 nomination if you'd like.
Would those folks have to, do we have a rule, they have to come off of those boards to serve on this one?
Yes, both of those boards are decision-making boards, yes.
Okay. So all 3 of them would have to come off of the respective boards. Were they aware of that, your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so gentlemen, each of us can make a nomination, or each of you all. I usually don't. So any nominations? Commissioner Hartman.
So as you said, it's getting difficult because of the resumes of all the people that, particularly this board and the Utilities Commission. There's a lot of great applicants in the city of New Smyrna Beach. And I don't think we're going to have trouble finding anybody qualified to serve on those boards. But I would like to nominate Carl Hodges.
Okay.
Stephen Yates.
Commissioner Sacks.
Dale DiBernardo.
Commissioner Cloney. Anyone to add?
Alessandra Fiervante Carr.
Last name Score?
I score.
Oh.
I can't read my own writing. So.
Alessandra Score? Is that the?
Alessandra, yes.
Alessandria, okay. Okay, so we have 4 nominations. Those 4, Dell DiBernardino, Alessandra Score, Carl Hodges, and Stephen Yates. So, gentlemen, you have a nomination thing in front of you. If you would select one of those, they have to get 3 votes. So if there's, well, we'll figure it out here in a minute. If everyone votes for their person.
That's exactly what it is. The first round is just formality.
So one person's going to have 2 votes because I didn't nominate anybody.
That's good.
But that's not enough to get them appointed.
Right.
But I don't know, we're going to have a 3-way tie for second. So I don't know where we go from here. Gary, what do we do? What's the 3-way tie for second situation? Presuming that's where we land.
Wait and see.
All right, maybe I will get surprised.
Okay. The results from the first. were Commissioner Hartman and Mayor Owen selected Carl Hodges. Commissioner Colodi selected Alessandra Score. Vice Mayor McGurk selected Stephen Yates, and Commissioner Sacks selected Dale DiBernardo.
Okay, three-way tie for second. So I think we just take another vote with the same four applicants.
Yeah.
And if that is also a tie, then we'll do something else. I don't know. Everybody's just going to move to somebody else. So that was DiBernardo, Score, Hodges, and Yates were the only four. Don't put anybody else, please. Don't introduce a new variable into this. It's fine. I say this every time. I think we got to get it better. Why do we have? We don't have to do this via ballot, right? We can just.
You can do voice vote. It's just the way that
It's always been.
they've always
but
done it
I don't,
that way.
Well,
because we then immediately.
the voice vote is good. I mean, we can talk it out. I can, you know,
That's
I
what I'm
can,
saying.
instead of it going through the ballot and trying to guess and, oh, I'll go this way, I can say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll go, if there is 2 votes for this guy, I'll go on with that one.
I mean, I think the notion is, if I had to guess when this tradition started, it was long before my time, but I had to guess, it's you don't really want to be you don't want to be making a case for somebody or a case against somebody that has volunteered to serve on a board. So it's probably meant to say, listen, we make our nominations, you vote in silent, and we don't talk about it a lot because you wouldn't want to disparage someone that's volunteered. So maybe that's why we do it, but feels like this. I mean, this is 2022. We got
In the past, it's very
we
common
have-
for
we have-
someone to nominate everybody, and then you pick your person, so no one felt left out or like they.
oh,
had
so
to-
everybody got nominated, and then you just pick.
Now it's-
Oh, I got
It's
you.
more just, it's.
Is that in the era of, that's the participation trophy approach, is that?
That's exactly right. I've seen it done that way many times, so.
All right, how did we do this time, Kelly?
Good.
Good, okay.
Commissioner Sacks voted for Dale DiBernardo.
Okay.
Mayor Owen for Alessandra Score.
Nope. If I did, I didn't mean to. Did I?
Yes, you did.
I was too busy
Would you like your
worrying
ballot
about the
back?
ballot. Can I change it? Is that I didn't mean to.
If it's a scrivener's error, I would
Yeah,
go get
no,
your ballot
I
and
meant to
change
put
it.
it under Carl Hodges. I was thinking Carl Hodges. I can change it. I can walk over and change it. But I meant to say with Carl Hodges. So
All right.
I thought.
If you're,
So I voted for the first time.
all right. With that being said, Mayor Owen, Vice Mayor McGurk, Commissioner Colodi, and Commissioner Hartman voted for Carl Hodges. So Carl Hodges is the new member of the Planning and Zoning Board, and there's a vacancy on the Historic Preservation Commission.
We just plug one hole to create another. All right. Thank you to Mr. Hodges. He's now on the Planning and Zoning Board. My apologies, gentlemen, for the scrivener error. Next up, Mayor and Commission reports. We'll begin as always with the Vice Mayor.
I actually have something today. I usually try not to,
Yeah.
but I will. I've been building up and holding back.
all right.
But
This
this
is
is, tonight's not the night.
Okay.
I just wanted to make an observation about the, we talk a lot about boards. I know we reappointed or brought, or kept, not reappointed, but we brought back or did not sunset the Turnbull Land Preservation Commission. I'm hearing 2 things I'd like to consider. One is I'd like to know how many people have not shown up in the last, let's say, year. How many people have been missing meetings? And the other thing is I wanted to address an issue that was brought to my attention, which is the point of the committee is to, as I understand, what the voters determined was to buy land and spend the money buying land. Not sure, I think that we should give that board direction or put a leash on it if it gets too far outside the box or outside the norm of what the intent of that committee was. So I'd like, you can put in my box, it's not important, but if staff can give me an idea of how many people have been attending it or missing it, what the attendance has been. And then, the focus should be on buying land, not necessarily going off on personal opinions on everything around, natural resources and how to take care of them. I think if we need to give the board that direction if we want them talking about that, getting way out into the weeds, because the people who are putting their time in, put their time in with the understanding of what their intent is and what they're supposed to be doing. So it's not a big problem now, but I think that we need to make sure that they're focused on buying lands. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Ms. Robert?
Sorry for tasking you with work, Kelly.
So first off, the event over the last couple weekends with the Art Fiesta, I think was a very great event. A lot of staff was involved in that, and I certainly do appreciate all that they were doing. They were there manning some of the barricades, helping with the vendors and doing a lot of that. So that was very beneficial, I think, both to the patrons and to those who participated in the event. So I want to thank them very much for all their hard work and what they did for that. I also shared with you the gentleman who we nominated for the Citizen of the Year award. He's doing his final ride to raise money for children for the Kiwanis Club. So I handed you a little information packet on that. I was told that this is probably going to be his last because of his age and his health and things like that. So I certainly would thank you to think about that and maybe support him in his efforts in the Kiwanis and what they do for the children. The other thing is kind of like what Commissioner McGurk was talking about. I'm curious as to, we've appointed all these boards, we have these boards, and we talked about them, we discussed them, and now they're all on hold. And, there seems to be, like Pam talked about, there needs to be maybe some new direction, some new focus on some of those things. I'm not so sure how we get to it, but I'm not comfortable with citizenry setting policy on how our board should act. If we can do that in a fashion where they're working with staff or make suggestions to staff or to us, and we go that direction, I'm certainly supportive of that. I think she had some wonderful ideas. I'm a little hesitant with the citizens doing that, and I think that kind of gets to Commissioner McGurk's point is sometimes they get off when we do things like that. They kind of get off focus a little bit and don't stay. So with what we've happened in the last couple of years with some of these boards. With COVID and everything else that happened was not showing up and things like that. I think that to refocus and kind of go back and figure out what that objective is a good idea. I just think that maybe it should be done with someone in-house and staff to do that sort of thing. So that's all I have.
I'm wearing my yellow and my blue in support of Ukraine. My grandparents came to this country legally through Ellis Island. They belonged to various Ukrainian clubs. They passed away. All that's lost. But the country is still there. I do not like the direction our country is going. That's all I'm going to say on it. They're tough decisions, but we really all have to think about them and how that affects this country and how we act. Just like the chaplain said, our prayers really should be out for those people. Back to the city business now. Following up what Commissioner Hartman said, we got to get a handle on these advisory boards. The public is noticing that we're not handling the advisory boards properly. Kelly put a lot of time and effort into getting us the information to make decisions and how to follow up on it, and we've done nothing. We've had a lot of staff shortages that have been filled, and I would like to see somebody appointed to deal with these boards, help the boards out, try to get some semblance and continuity through things. A lot of these board members don't show up because they don't get any help and no direction or anything. We got to work on it. We can't talk about it. We got to do it. Third thing, a subject that's gone away, but it's back, the Spyglass Pier. We put money into an account to demolish it. We studied it. The recommendation it be demolished. I have gone out with our manager. We think that's an overaction. I don't think we should spend any more money than what we have in the bank, but some repairs could be made to it. It could be made safe, and it could be usable. That's my recommendation. I don't want to discuss it now, but I would like to put it on the agenda so that we can get some clear direction and finally get it over with and done. Next item, we've heard a lot of comments from primarily Venetian Bay people about how our PUDs are not being enforced. We got to put an effort into, I know the planning board a number of years ago came up with guidelines as to what should be done, as to the time limits of them, how they should proceed. We got to change our land development ordinances just to make them more reasonable so we don't have to have people so upset because they've moved into our town and they're not getting what they were promised. We say we can't force the developers to do it. We could write it in there, in the PUD documents, timeframes, specific requirements. Let's put in a community house. How big's it got to be? Maybe there should be a standard in there. They do have a standard as to how much space could be set aside. We got to tighten these things up. And if that means directing the planning board to look into it and come up with recommendations, I'm all for that. Last thing, Turnbull Creek was brought up, and the advisory boards, but they don't have direction as to what they can really talk about. With regard to Turnbull Creek, we're about to enter into a contract for design of the Corbin Park storm drainage. I believe that the Turnbull Creek portion that's nearby has a direct effect on whether that storm drain project will work. And I would like the contract with the design firm to include that within the scope of his analysis. I would hate to put $1 million worth of pipes out there and have the water just sit in them because they're backed up. So it should be included in the study. That's my recommendation. If appropriate, we could put it up for discussion on a future date, but to me, this is a kind of a no-brainer.
I just have a comment on your first thing you said, not on that. So I don't.
I forget what I said first.
Well, you said.
Clear me up.
You said something about staff not making sure the plans in the development agreement are followed through on. I wanted you to clarify what that was, because I'm not aware of that. I'm aware of things not in the development agreement that we would like, but the comment you made, I just needed some clarification on.
What you stated is what I'm looking for.
Okay, but that's not staff not following up. The way you said it, it made it sound like.
Correct.
Okay.
No, staff is following up. Their hands are tied just like our hands are tied on that. So I would like to see changes like that put in there, which we can do. One other thing that I would like in there is when you have these massive projects, massive soil moving projects, borrow pits, I had suggested that we include any developer agreement that they share the cost of their inspection so we can have an independent inspector go out there at their expense to make sure they comply.
I like that.
Those are the type of things I would like to put in there. I don't know the best way to proceed on that. Mr. Manager, what do you suggest?
Any suggestions?
Yes.
I think the changes that we working on with the LDR and the PUDs, with all these lessons that we have learned the past year at least, I think it's going to make a difference. And I have met with the developer on Shell Point, even though we haven't changed the LDRs. But I mentioned to him that these are the things that we're looking for, and I think he was willing to even include the stuff that we were looking for, even though it hasn't been changed yet. So we will make sure that the PUDs and also the subdivisions have include some of these concerns that we have in terms of parking, traffic calming, wider lots, deeper setbacks. I think it's going to make a difference in the subdivision design. And also to avoid some of the issues that it comes up after the subdivision is approved, and now we have to deal with it here. So we'll do that.
Do you have any idea as what a time frame would be?
We're hoping that we are working on it soon. That's what I'm hoping for. I have attached, when I say soon, it's probably within the next 2 months. I have asked the assistant city manager and also the development services director to combine the changes. I don't want to come into you, one change at a time. I want to kind of combine a bunch of them and bring them at one time for you. So I'm hoping in the next 2 months that we bring quite a few changes on the LDR.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You finished?
Well, actually, I have one more thing.
I wasn't inducing you. I was just making sure before I cut you
But
off.
you did.
All right. I should have just.
A question. There was, we had a problem in the past with some burns that said ash throughout Sugar Mill, and we took over control of issuing some of those permits.
Mm-hmm.
With the horrendous accident that just happened down on 95, do we get notifications when there's going to be a control burn in our town? And do we have any authority to act on that?
We do get notices if it's within our area. I'm not sure if it's outside the area, if we get any notices or not. I have to check with the chief. But if it's within our area, we do get notices.
Okay, yeah, I'm concerned with what's in our corporate limits.
But this past, I guess, almost last week, I think, I was talking to the city manager from Edgewater today, and it's outside the city of Edgewater, so they were, I don't know if they were notified of the burn, but I'll double check with the chief and let you know.
Yeah, I just want to make sure because obviously the results can be terrible.
We don't allow, developers can't use controlled burns for land clearing now, right?
No, they have to come to us for a permit, and we
You're
don't
just
allow
saying,
it.
like, if there's a forestry controlled burn, like in the Spruce Creek, like we've had those, you're saying those kind of things.
Those kind of
we would get
things where,
notified, yeah,
where
gotcha.
there could be unintended
Yeah,
consequences.
right, yeah.
But if it's in the unincorporated area, then.
Right, that's a good point. Commissioner Sachs.
Yes, and don't forget, the air has no boundaries, so if Edgewater decides to burn, I don't know if they do or not, but as an example. I had spoken about peer review and bringing forward competent, substantial evidence to these big projects, like borrow pits. Funny about borrow pits, if you Google Earth, you'll see them all over the place. That's how we built Western New Smyrna Beach, with borrow pits.
East too.
Right, east side too.
It was all built with
Waterford Lakes. Imagine that. The point is, we need to find independent peer review, not the usual people that visit us, that are resident experts, that we see their faces all the time. We need to look for some fresh faces and give us new information to vet. I've noticed that the residents are displeased with what's going on in New Smyrna, and I'm sure you all have too. We're growing really fast. Is it irresponsible? I don't know. I look at these land development regulations on one hand, and I know I'm supposed to vote yes, but yet we have a constituency that's not just mad at us, they're mad, they're sad, they're scared they're going to lose their city to something that they will never recognize again. We have to do our best, and I don't think we're doing our best. Yes, we have good staff, but sometimes I think they need that help. We needed it at the borrow pit, and I don't think we had it. To me, the Water Management District is not the expert to go look to when they approve a project. You need separate peer review. And I don't know exactly how to bring that forward. Maybe we as a body should vet that. Staff can bring them forward to us, but they're out there. There's other professionals out there with different points of view. And those that say that what we may be doing is wrong sometimes. So I just wanted to add that. Maybe we can get there, because there are other cities that seem to be a little more responsible with their land uses. And I hope we can get there ourselves. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
To build on that just a little bit, actually one of the items I had that you reminded me to add, I think though, going back, when you look at other cities, the future people sitting up here will get to take a lot of credit for how responsible we are in the future based on changes we've made. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've had to sit up here and vote yes on, like what happened tonight, if it came through the process this body's now put in place, it wouldn't happen. So some future body is going to get to take a lot of credit for how responsible we develop, and we're taking a lot of flack for how irresponsibly we're developing. But again, these are projects that were first started talking about when I was in middle school or high school, and I have teenage kids, like that's the sense of time that we're dealing with. And one of the issues is we had no expiration dates on a lot of these things, which is something we've also addressed. And we're making sure if we approve stuff, there's a time limit, because Commissioner McGurk made the point well, things change so much. Like it's not effective government to have something be open-ended, because the needs of a community change so dramatically over a 20-year period. The world has changed over 20 years. So the demands of a community has changed. I think that, we're in a unique spot. This body, the five of us, we're in a unique spot in what we're dealing with. And it's tough, because in some ways, I think we take a lot of flack now. And then I think with time, we'll be able to look back and see we actually have accomplished a lot of good. When I go through and list what we've done, focusing not on the project by project that we've had come before us, the plats we've had to approve from ancient history, but focusing on the actual changes we've made that will impact future developments, and ones that we've pushed back or rejected. I'm proud of that progress. We're not finished. We've got a lot to do, and that's to Commissioner Colodey's point earlier. We've got a lot of things we want to do. So, talking about experts, though, and I agree on this. I've made the point that there are times I feel like we are relying on our staff. They can only be expert at so many things. They're good people, but they can only be experts at so many things. There was a discussion last night at Planning and Zoning around a parking lot, and down in, kind of south New Smyrna, off of A1A. Yeah, near Matthews, yeah. And I think that would be an opportunity for us to look at, having a discussion, having someone maybe from the city, or that was not from the city, but that we brought on to talk about safety concerns that would be created by that parking lot. There's a lot of things we're not going to be able to look at, is my understanding from what I heard about the meeting. A lot of things that we probably, there's certain concurrency requirements that don't exist when it's a parking lot. There's no trip generation per state statute or whatever governs that. There's no trip generation from a parking lot, because nobody leaves their house to go park in a parking lot is the theory. They go to the destination. The parking lot's just what they use once they get there. So, there's a lot of things that it won't trigger in our standard review process. But I do think that we probably should have, there are some safety concerns that even some members, the P&Z voted it, 1 to 5 or something, right? You were probably there. Were you there? Mm-hmm. I know you attend all this. I was across the street at a community meeting. But it was they voted it down basically, or didn't recommend approval, 1 to 5 or whatever. And they had safety concerns. So maybe that's a time when we dip our toe into this water of, do we bring on someone to at least give us kind of independent, not just our staff, not their attorney or their representative, but someone to give us hey, are there valid safety concerns that we could bring up as, let's make sure we get solved, and, if we have to approve it, because they have certain vested rights of the property, but are there safety concerns that we could legitimately bring up and push back on to make sure at least those are addressed? So that may be just one example of something like what you were talking about.
And Mayor, if I could just tack on to that, brain fog, sorry. The point is, to find those people is not easy. Other cities I've read have challenged projects and have won, unbelievably.
Yeah.
And we've had a few wins. But when the people push back and their leaders push back, sometimes some good things happen.
If the evidence supports it.
Of course.
That's the problem. I mean, because Ponce Inlet pushed back and lost $13 million in taxpayer
Yes,
money.
that can happen.
So you can push back and throw money out the door, but if we push back the right way, if we get the evidence on our side and then push back, I do think we could push back on some things.
I may be wrong, but I think the people want us to try.
No, you're not wrong on that
Right?
at all. There's no denying that people want us to try. There's no denying anybody up here wants to try. We all want to try, and we are. We've made many changes to LDRs, et cetera. But trying, if I may, so trying is not just voting against the Palms when it comes forward 20 years after it was approved and we're voting the final plat. That's not trying to push back on it. Pushing back on it is making the changes to the LDR or getting expert testimony in a case when something comes before us, getting valid expert testimony that would give us something that we can hang our hat on and that we don't end up in court on. I mean, that's the pushing back. That's how we have to push back with our head and not just our heart, because everyone's heart wants to push back. None of us like it. Look, I've spent hundreds of thousands buying property around me because I don't want to see it developed. And that's what everybody wants us to do. They want us to buy every piece of property that is set to be developed right now. They want the city to buy. They want someone to buy and turn it into a park. That's what I hear, we all hear. Mm-hmm. So everyone's heart is there. The question is, how do we get this? How do we get our head in the game to make sure we're doing it the right way? So, all right, the rest of my items real quick on the mayor's report. So, as we talk about LDR stuff, I just want to put this on the radar, and we can fold it in with the other stuff we're talking about. My understanding is we haven't addressed this movement towards tiny homes as kind of the colloquialism that's used. That kind of carries a negative connotation. People picture some like little shack, accessory dwelling units. I think Commissioner Hartman's brought those up before. I would like to see us addressing that in our LDRs. I think it's something we should lean into and encourage in the right way. And I can find many, many examples, especially in the Pacific Northwest, of communities that have done that. So we should be able to pluck and pull some code for that. Because I think right now we limit at, you've got to build at least a 1,200 square foot or something. Like we have that limitation that's at this point kind of aged out. Most communities are moving beyond that. And so I just want to put that on the radar for planning staff to be doing some research on. The boards, the advisory boards, a couple of my colleagues mentioned. So I think we all heard from Pam in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I was impressed with the direction that was headed. A lot of those I thought were decent ideas. So my thought, and I'll defer to staff, but my thought would be, I agree, it probably should, I don't need necessarily Pam bringing that up, but can we start with that as a jumping off point and have maybe, Kyle appoint somebody from staff, maybe it's Kelly or whoever, bring that back to us. But that's the direction that I want to go is we're not just sunsetting a board to sunset or keeping it to keep it, but we're focusing on the objective and the mission of each board, making sure they have a task and they have a purpose, and that purpose adds value to the residents and to the staff and to the commission. And the ones that I heard her talk about were, I felt they met that criteria. So I would like to see us add that to a future agenda, having her kind of pass her work off and work with staff to bring that back to us. Does anybody have any objections to that? I think I heard everybody say some variant of that. So does that work for everybody? Any objections to having that happen? So again, it'll be presented by a staff member. We'll maybe start with that. They can add some other things, make changes, give your feedback as needed. So, all right. And then the last thing is, just for thinking purposes, when someone wants to bring something to the commission, We don't have, correct me if I'm wrong, but this came up earlier this week. Kelly and I were talking about it. We don't have a crystal clear process for something to go from public participation to being on the agenda. And I have this request pretty routinely. Kelly deals with it a lot. She filters through most of them. But I feel like we probably should have a codified, like, this is the way you get something on an agenda, versus just someone lobbying Kelly, and then Kelly says, well, no, just come present public participation. They say, well, I need more than 3 minutes. Well, then they land on administrative items, new business. Like, I think we should have a process for that. They come, they speak during public participation. If there's enough support from the commission, we direct staff, like I just did with the PAM thing, to say, put them on an agenda. Maybe it's just staff directed, and we put all that back on them. I don't know. I just think we should have a formal process, because what I don't want to have is someone gets told no, and then we get questioned on why the other, why did it ever happen since I got told no? Then how did the neighborhood garden district get on there? How did that person get up there? And I don't want to put us or staff in that position. So we don't have to solve it tonight. I just want to put it on the radar. I'm going to challenge Kelly maybe to give us some feedback on, here's how other cities do that. Here's how they navigate that process of going from the 3-minute public participation to an agenda item kind of without a limit, which is a whole other ballgame. So that was all that I had. Next is city manager report. Kyle, what you got?
Okay, I have about an hour.
You have about an hour? Is that what you said?
That's what I
thought you just growled at us.
No, I've been here since 7, so
yeah.
No, I think the only issue I want to bring up is about increase of cost on the Barracuda Bridge through the bidding process. In the CM report, it shows the increase is about 114, and the increase is a lot more than that based on the DOT. It's like 359 for the construction and 58,000 for the CEI. So I just we'll come up with an item for you at the next meeting for your approval, because it has to be approved with the budget amendments.
Okay.
Besides that, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer it.
Any questions for Colin on his report included in the agenda? Seeing none. City clerk's report.
Yes, additionally to the report that was submitted, just wanted to bring to your attention regarding the advisory boards that there were 2, Neighborhood Council and Leisure Services, that were placed on hold. Their meetings were canceled. One in February, one in March. These are both quarterly boards. So their next meetings would be May and June. And I do have members on both boards that are declining at this time to resubmit because they don't know the future of it.
Yeah.
So that being said, I would like to bring that item back since the city clerk's office does control those boards and works with the citizens. I would like to be the one to bring that back.
Okay.
I would also like to be the one to bring that back before these next meetings so that they have some direction and they know if they're going to submit their applications to be considered for reappointment, to be fair to them. If there's no objections, I would.
I see no objections to that. Please bring that back at the next agenda, next time on the agenda works. Work with your
I was
colleagues.
thinking April, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I do want to hear more about that proposal, though, so hopefully you can fold that into whatever you would also recommend. But
Yes, that's fine.
all right. Any questions for Kelly on her report, city attorney report?
No report.
All right, if no other business for the board, meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Dear Lord, was that you?
Technology, I tell you.